I'ma talk shit in the world gone stupid. Now I'm back on my bullshit.
Fucking ready?
I'm super ready.
We're back.
Super ready.
We're fucking ready.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah, we're back from a quick vacation for my wife's birthday. We went out, had a good time, a good long weekend. I'm stressed out from work. But today we have a guest.
Yes, our first guest.
Our first guest, my good friend Mike Pamplona. Mike, say hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here, dude.
Yes,
I've been promised this for a while. It's
Thanks for keeping your clothes on.
I'm happy to do so.
It's not that kind of party yet. But yeah, we were just gonna catch up on the weekend. We went out to Hamul.
Yeah, Hamul.
Hamul. Have you been to the Indian casino Hamul down in San Diego?
Did you know we had a city called Hamul?
I did not.
It's actually spelled Jamul. Right.
Okay.
There you go. And we had learned when we were there it's pronounced Hamul. I'm guessing it's because it's Native American, but it's really close to Mexico, so it's going to have
from
a
what
lot
I was
of
hearing, it's a
Spanish.
Hamul tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, like when you hear tribe names, you don't always they sound, for the lack of a better word, Indian, right? From what we were raised, right? But now this one sounds like it has Spanish
or Middle Eastern.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. But it has like a Spanish thing to it, right? Because the J, it sounds like an H or whatever. And we were like 10 minutes from the border.
Yeah.
Hamul's you could see if you were high enough on the pool, you probably could see the Mexico.
Yeah.
I didn't look. I should have looked.
So is it a resort or a city? Sorry.
It's both.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a casino with the hotel attached to it. We have throughout California, and but it's a new one, so had nice amenities. It was nice pool area. It was they got the whole lights set up for dance parties and everything out there.
Are we going to review them today?
We can.
We can. Let's review them today.
I really appreciated the accommodations. I thought the rooms were nice.
Yes.
The restaurants the steakhouse was pretty bomb.
Well, so the casino's, from what I hear, is about 9 years old, but the hotel is brand new. I don't even think it's a year old.
They have card games there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Card games, blackjack, poker, 3-card poker, 6-card
They
poker.
have dice games though, right?
They have craps, but then there's a blended card situation. I don't play craps, so I don't understand it. But
yeah, I didn't.
Our buddy
follow
was
it.
saying that you throw your dice and you hit the number, and then they flip the card associated with the number. So you're not actually gambling on your dice. There's a whole other plan. Remember we were talking about with roulette where they didn't just spin the wheel and pull the card. They pulled a color, and then whatever the color was on the thing, they pulled that card. And I didn't want to play roulette like that. It was too many factors. You know what I mean? That playing too many random factors. So anyway, get on to the review. Was that it's an older casino that was still nice. It was classy, and it was put together nice. The hotel was really nice. It was really clean to me. I thought it was really nice.
Did you guys even hear about it though?
Our friend was searching. We were gonna go to
Morongo.
No, before that we were supposed to go somewhere else first.
The first one was
we were going to go to Paula. We were going to go to Paula, and then some of our other friends were deciding if they could or could not, and Paula didn't have any more rooms, so then we looked at Morongo, and Morongo had rooms, and then that didn't happen because they shut the whole booking down on the weekend that they were going to book, so there was no rooms available, so then we changed it to Hamul. And anyway, the hotel room was really nice. The hotel was nice. The food in the hotel only had one restaurant, and it was only buffet. I didn't think it was amazing.
No.
You enjoyed the seafood you had, but
because it was a buffet style brunch, and there was a ton of lobster and crab legs.
Crab legs.
Yeah. And
so how can you go wrong?
They prep their crab legs, because I've had crab legs at other places where they're stir fry it in this garlic sauce or whatever. It's already pre-marinated. You can get them plain or whatever. And just butter.
Yeah. These were plain. They were just
plain.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't fucking touch that shit.
Yeah. So
I had a buffet. I hate crab leg. I don't like crab.
I had 10 lobsters because they cut them in half.
He did. Yeah, I didn't need a ton. I felt bad. He talked shit because I got some oatmeal. He's like, fucking oatmeal.
Oatmeal from
What the fuck's wrong with
on
you?
vacation, bro. I had that Monday through Friday.
You put some brown. You put some
I
brown
had other
sugar.
stuff. But I had some oatmeal. It was fucking good, by the way.
You put some brown sugar in it.
I did underneath first,
butter?
and then I put not the butter, but I put the the brown sugar, and I put some little bit of walnuts, a little bit of raisins. It was only like 6-7 bites. I just think a little.
Did you
something.
put any milk in it?
No, no milk. No
Okay.
milk. No milk.
Some of that Gelson's oatmeal, dude. It's
Is it good?
No, that's what it
Gelson's.
sounds like. Dude. Sugar underneath.
Did you want to talk more shit while you had the chance?
Yeah. So let's talk about. No, I'm just kidding.
And then what was funny, dude, was look, I don't know what the deal is with the help there. They're struggling to find. And you know what? I think by the time they had left, they left a day early. I was sitting there with our other friends, and we thought maybe the tribe gets first dibs at the jobs, and you gotta. Well, I don't want to continue that sentence. I don't want to say anything too bad. I love Native Americans. I love the heritage, and I try to back them as much as possible. I think they got fucked over, but I don't want to say that they're not, of intelligent. But the help here was just so fucking.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of the
lacking.
staff was Native American.
It's hard to tell right now these days.
Yes, but I think there was a variety of staff. There was,
There was.
Filipino, there was
Yes.
white, there was black,
Yes.
it was everybody. There
Native,
was Hispanic,
yeah,
yes,
all of it.
Yeah.
There
There was.
Anyway, it was just a thought, but it was just like they were kind of unprofessional. They were helpful and polite, but unprofessional.
Yeah, like they had a little girl, like I say a little girl because literally she might have just been 21, as the cocktail server at the pool.
And she's like 5'1", so
And
she's literally little.
And she's like, she comes over to see if you need anything, and then she goes over on the bar stool and sits and BS's with the bartender and watches, whatever's on the TV, and you don't see her again for 30 minutes, and then she's like, oh, I got to go on my break. If you need anything, just get it at the bar, and we're like, okay. No one to replace her, no one to come over and say, hey, this is so-and-so going to take over my spot. And it's a decent hotel enough that you would think that would happen.
And dude, we were the only ones at the pool at that point. So
Right. Not overworked necessarily.
I was confused.
And then she goes
She was
on her
sweet.
break and comes back, oh, my stomach is so full. I ate so much. Like we're old friends.
Yeah.
She told
You know
our
what I
wives
mean?
she had a food baby.
Yeah, dude, it's
She
all-
had to take a shit. She told them when she got back from her break that she had to shit.
It's all the oatmeal, dude.
Yeah, dude. Anyway,
And she was nice enough. She
Yeah.
just needs more experience
Right.
of, you're in a business situation.
yeah, they need and we experienced like the dealers talking shit to people that were giving them a hard time. They'll talk back.
Yeah.
Everybody
But
was
they're
telling-
also
Play
see these
also be cool.
Yeah, they're local people that are at their tables every day, day in and day
that
out.
too.
Okay.
And they were an experience where they were not locals and they were running their mouth back to them, like giving it back, because if you've ever played at a card table, a lot of times if you're losing, some guy feels like he has the right to give the dealer a hard time, and the dealer has nothing to do with the cards that are coming out.
Straight up.
And but sometimes they just give it back. And a lot of pit bosses were also dealers. On one night, a pit boss. One night, a
Yeah.
dealer. I saw that after you guys were gone.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was a nice place to go. We didn't win much.
No.
None of us won much. I do actually have a story that I'll tell you off camera.
From after we left?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Oh, is it? You can't put it on camera?
Well, I don't want to talk about my gambling that I did.
My gambling problems.
I'm not a degenerate gambler, and I don't want everyone else to think that I am, and that I'm going to go around saying that I'm not when you saw on camera that I was gambling. I hardly gamble.
Yeah,
but
we gambled maybe twice a year.
They
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
won't
exactly.
think. They definitely won't think that now, though.
No, not now. Not when I was super defensive before anyone said anything. So off camera, I'll tell you, but I made up.
Okay.
So it was good.
Good.
But, we had a good time. But I
I was
recommend
down
it.
like $1,500 at one point, and then I only ended up being down $600.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a victory.
That's good. Yeah, not a total loss necessarily. It depends on how you look at it. You degenerate.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But
it was a good
and then it had a
weekend.
nice speakeasy.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to talk about how you get into the
No,
speakeasy,
yeah.
but they did do it the right way, so you had to go through some hoops to get into the speakeasy. And
Yeah, a little secret bar that they tell you
Yeah.
that they have it, and you have to come down and register, and
Yep.
they give you the password.
and you have to give a
and
password.
you got to go to the right door and say the right password.
Yeah, so that
So
was
it's kind
cool.
of cool. Yeah.
That was keeping it kind of fun
Yeah.
and
it was cool in there. It was mellow in there. It was like almost like a private lounge library, like in a mansion, like someone had a library in their mansion. It was that's had the feel that it had
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
There were books on the walls and a fake fireplace, and Big chairs all spread out.
They allow smoking in their casinos.
Oh, they do.
In the,
Yeah,
or
in
even
the
anywhere
casino.
else.
Yeah, but then this speakeasy had an outside area where you could smoke too. So they had like a cigar lounge
and
area.
it wasn't necessarily a cigar lounge speakeasy. It was just a speakeasy, but you could smoke outside. So I took a cigar down there. We went and hung out one night just for a little bit. Had a drink and a charcuterie plate. That charcuterie plate was bomb, by the way.
Yes, it
Humble.
was.
Killing it on the charcuterie plate. The honey. I don't know where they're getting it, but I'm in love. Honeycomb.
Straight from the
on
beet.
the board. Oh my God. I'm like eating it like it's potato chips. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was, dude. It was.
Do you eat honeycomb?
No, but I would. I just haven't had the opportunity.
yeah.
It's so amazing.
I would do it.
And then we had it the next day at the pool, and I'm like, give me that honeycomb. Like the guy in the cereal box.
It was good.
Give me my honeycomb.
But overall,
it was
good
cool.
experience.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. Nothing bad. Nothing bad.
You been down to Coronado?
Yeah, I've been on the islands.
Okay.
I've been my cousin that works out there. I've been to San Diego several times. Never heard of that place before, but I know of the island.
Yeah, and the Coronado Hotel. Have you ever been
Yeah,
there?
hotel. It's supposed to be haunted, right? Hotel.
Yeah,
Del
Del Coronado. Yeah.
yeah.
They had just recently finished some renovations at it, so my wife and I wanted to stop by the first day, and we pull in, and they ask if you're going to stay there. So we're going to go get a bite to eat, and says, okay, no problem, come on in. And so we go and we ask one of the valets, hey, where's the restaurants, and he goes, well, you can go straight down this outside path and go in. He goes, but you're going to miss everything. He goes, go right up these stairs, go to the courtyard, go into the main grand room, and,
See,
yeah.
that's, I'm going to,
Oh,
real
I see what
quick,
you're
that's
saying.
help. Because let me just say this. We would come down in the morning at Hamul, and we would be a little bit later, and we'd be looking for breakfast. And we'd get these looks from these employees like, I don't know what to tell you. They're closed. This place doesn't open until 11:30. This is just a buffet. You didn't make reservations. You can't come in, even though there's 86 open tables. All these weird things. So yesterday in the morning, I'll let you back to it, but we come downstairs and we're looking at the cafe where there's those three little restaurants, like the Mexican place, a pizza place, and a burger place in the casino. And I walk over just to look at the menus. There's breakfast at the burger place.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
But why doesn't the employees say, hey, Prime Cut's closed, the Tony Gunn place is closed, but if you want breakfast, there are some breakfast items at the burger place. Not, I don't know, lunch is at 12.
Yeah.
It's like, if you just look left, bitch, you'd remember.
Yeah,
it's
or
right
the one girl came in and said, yeah, I don't work Mondays, so. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't work Mondays, but can we get a table?
Yeah, but do you work? Are you working now? I know it's Monday, but are you working, or you're just here to tell me whatever? So, getting help like that, he knows. He's telling you what to do. And I got one over here telling that there's no place to get breakfast, even though all she's got to do is look left and she'll have a little reminder and get a breakfast sandwich at this place. Well, not the coffee place, bro. The burger place.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. Anyway.
Yeah, when I was, first morning when I was there, I was at the coffee spot and just waiting for the coffee to come out. Yeah. So I walked through and looked at all those little spots.
Well, where the fuck were you when we were looking for breakfast?
I forgot.
You don't work on Mondays.
I don't work on Mondays.
All right, back to Coronado.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so we went into Coronado, and the place is sick. Mm-hmm. It's just it's out of the 1800s. Mm-hmm. All the motif to it, the woodwork. You go into the grand lobby, and then they have a downstairs section. All their shops are underneath, and they're all high-end shops. With high-end merchandise, and you walk through, and it's then it opens up into a. Almost like you're in Hawaii, a big open grass area, and the pool's off to the right, and different restaurants that are overlooking the beach are right there. Really cool environment. That's all I got to say. The only thing that sucks is that you're right there next to TJ, and there's warning signs about being able to go in the water because of the bacteria.
Oh,
because everything comes out of that Mexico canal right there, and they just dump all their waste into the ocean right there with no filtration. So you got $1 billion hotel that you can't go swim in the ocean in front of it during certain times of the year.
That's crazy because that's where the SEAL base is, the Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
They do all their water training right there. I wonder if that's.
Yeah, it's up the coast a little though, isn't it? Or is it right next to Coronado?
Well, they have the one base that's right there on Coronado.
Yeah, that's right.
And
the Navy SEAL training's down there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's that camp called?
Well, you're thinking of Camp Pendleton.
No, the Navy SEAL camp specifically. Do you know the name of that? Like the
No.
training? It's called Buds.
Buds, yeah.
Buds training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
there
good
it is.
memory right
Thank
there,
you,
buddy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very clear-headed
Your
today.
geek cova's kicking in.
Yeah, I need to OD on that shit. Sometimes I can't even remember my name.
Right. So, Mike was gracious enough to come visit us on this podcast. He is a lawyer by profession, and I don't really know much about lawyering, so we'd like to ask him some questions.
Yeah.
and kind of see the type of law that he practices, and maybe get some insights into the type of law that he practices.
Yeah, Mike, if you could refresh my memory and tell everybody else kind of like maybe where you started, if you don't mind, and kind of some of the different positions you've held. Because I just recently learned that you didn't just do what you're doing now the whole time. You had done some other stuff.
Right.
You were a real attorney.
Yeah, for a moment.
I'm fucking
for a
with
moment
you.
in time.
Because not that what you do, honestly, not that what you do is anything less than what an attorney needs to be doing. And it's a profession. It's serious because we're going to get to that. But I didn't know that you were the other. There are lots of other types, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, Mike Pamplona, why don't you fill us in?
We just
on-
thought there was
Wait,
criminal
wait.
law.
I want to say, I want to say this, and we'll see what happens. Tell us your life story, Mike.
That's another podcast.
Yes,
dude.
it is. Yes, it is.
But so I got my license in 2015, and right out of the gate, I worked for a local small family law firm, and I thought family law was what I wanted to do, and general family law is your divorces, right? Child custody, child support, spousal support, all that stuff. I was at that firm for about 2 years, so that's about 2017.
Did you study in California too?
Yeah, I went to Loyola Law School, which is right over there by Staples Center. I know they call it crypto now, but I call it Staples. So.
It's Staples.
It's
to me.
Staples.
It's always going to be Staples.
It's on the other side of the 110 from Staples.
Okay,
just like
I didn't know
there
was a school there.
It's one of the few, I think, just law schools anywhere where it's not attached or on the same campus as its university. Like where I guess parent university or whatever you want to call it is LMU.
Right.
But their law school was purchased after the fact, and they purchased it there, took it over, and now it's LMU's law school. They call it Loyola Law School.
Okay.
So, but most law schools, like UCLA Law, is going to be
Is
on
it right
campus.
there by the Trade Tech School? West LA Trade?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It maybe that was forever ago when I was there. I mean, it feels like forever ago now, but I would drive from there just to get there on campus, and I'd go right back home. It was just commuting pretty much every 4 days.
What
a
you're
week.
telling us is
You weren't hanging out in the corners?
No,
so you didn't go to the University of Phoenix. That's what you're saying.
I did not. By some miracle, I ended up at Loyola Law School. So I got my license, got my degree from there, my JD, and then got my license in 2015. Right out of the gate, like I said, working family law, just doing the standard, a lot of discovery there, trying to get everyone's financial information from the other spouse, whoever you're representing.
Yeah.
Business valuations, that kind of thing. Restraining orders, all that stuff. And this is nothing against my firm. Like my boss, I'm still friends with him. The folks that work there, they're sharp, they're smart. Just family law, day in and day out, was just a grind, And it's not because I was looking at it through rose-colored lenses, like this is going to be perfect. It's going to be difficult, but it wears, And I was just like, I want to do something else. It came a point where when I was still doing that kind of law, where in court, my client said something, and I was like, in my brain, I was like, I can't believe I went to law school for this. I had this moment where I was like, I need to figure something else out. Right. And it's not a reflection on my boss or anything like that. It's just, I was like, I need to do something else. So internally I was looking, but I hadn't really put out any feelers. I came across another attorney who told me about the work that she does, which is essentially juvenile dependency, which is what I do now. And I've done that since about February of 2018. So it's about 7.5 years worth of it. And that's what I've been doing now. Exclusively. I used to dabble in a little bit of estate planning, like wills and trusts and that kind of thing.
Right.
But with this practice, to me, it's it is to your point, it's a niche area where not a lot of people know about it, right? You hear about CPS cases, you hear about it, that kind of thing. But there's this whole process that exists that I didn't even know about. When I was in law school on Loyola, they, advertise this like clinic, like you get extra credits or whatever if you want to help out with this juvenile dependency clinic. And I'm in law school. I'm like, what the heck is juvenile dependency?
Yeah, because when you say juvenile dependency,
Yeah.
I think of drugs.
automatically
Yeah.
think of drug dependence.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that juvenile, meaning that you're a child who is dependent on the court for protection.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're dependent of the court. And so yeah, even the wordage that they use, right? It's kind of like, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
And most of the time, you'll know, just like you guys, you'll be like, what is that, right? If you say juvenile dependency to someone, and they're like, yeah, and they're not a lawyer, okay, you're just like saying yes to be like, oh yeah, of course, juvenile dependency.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
I do
like-
speak Spanish.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And for me, it was a learning curve too, because when I got hired on, I remember, because, I clerked at my local DA office, district attorney's office, and the work I do now, I represent the parents, which is not prosecutorial, right? It's essentially defense oriented, if you will, even though I don't do criminal defense. But I remember when I was interviewing and hiring on, I was honest about it. I was like, I don't know if I'm your guy, because like I clerked at the DA's office. I have no problem with the prosecution side of things.
To protect the children.
Right.
Right.
And and it was basically, what I've come to learn is that it's like a really pure way to practice law. And what I mean by that is when I'm in the family law firm, like you're doing billable hours, right? Like you've got to make, I don't know that I had a quota, but you had to make so many hours. Like, hey, we got this new client. Here's all the work that has to get started. It's going to be X amount of hours, and we're billing against the retainer. And that's how we fill our coffers, right? They deposit the retainer, and we do the work, and we pull it against it. When the retainer's out, we tell the client, got to refresh it, or else we can't do the work. But in my line of work, because I'm court-appointed counsel, I don't have billable hours. Like I don't have to worry about running the business, if you will, of like paying the rent at the office space, or making sure like I'm running advertisements in the paper. Like my Yelp reviews are, all 5 stars, none of that
Other
stuff.
employees, paralegals,
Right.
whatever it is.
Exactly. It is just, you have a client that's in this system now, and I have to help them navigate it. And it's as black and white as it gets. Like all law is gray, but in my experience, dependency is as black and white as it gets. It's just the law, and you're trying to help your client. I do have a little bit of like housekeeping things that I do, but nothing compared to like what a private firm might be doing. Like what I was doing over there. Like I have to keep track of all my hours, have to do this, have to do that.
So is it a public defender or it's not a public defender?
Not a public defender. So public defenders, they do, criminal defense, right? Someone like the DA has filed charges on someone, and you got to go to court. Yeah, go to court for an arraignment, that kind of thing. What we do, it's civil court, but we do borrow some things, like constitutional protections, if you will.
Okay.
Where like in family law court, you're not entitled to a lawyer. In family law court, you're either going to do it yourself, someone's going to do it pro per for free for you, or you're going to hire someone. You're not entitled to a lawyer in family law court, right? In our courtroom, you are entitled to court-appointed counsel, similar to someone who, gets arrested, when they get arraigned. If they can't afford an attorney, they get one appointed for them. That's a public defender.
Right.
So my group, we are not public defenders because we're not doing criminal defense, right? And there's, like I hate to be such like a stickler about words, but like if someone goes like, how do you defend these parents? I'm like, I'm not defending them. Like that's their public defender's job. I represent them. And you want to split hairs and go, it's just semantics. Oh, it's important, right? I'm not, like my job isn't to keep them out of jail. My job isn't to, try to beat the criminal case. My job is try to help them get their kids back. So while I do represent and try to defend their interests, like I don't see it as criminal defense work. To me, it's a little more important than that because it's your kids. Like I don't think there's any one of us that would think, there's no hardship you would take on yourself to keep your kids from having to go through it, right?
Right.
Your kids are number one.
Most people.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Most people are. And that's the way it should be. And so, like in criminal defense, it's really glamorous, right? You get a ton of movies about criminal defense, right? Famous celebrities, OJ, whatever.
Yeah.
All these things. Like there's so many Law and Order shows about criminal defense. And there's almost nothing about the juvenile dependency system. The only one I can think of would be I Am Sam with Sean Penn. When Dakota Fanning was really young. That's a dependency movie, right?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
You know why I didn't want to watch that? I didn't want to cry. I'll be straight up.
You would have.
I can handle anything,
Yeah.
And but when it comes to like special needs cases, like handicap, special needs, Down syndrome, those I have the biggest heart for handicapped kids, and I was like, that radio, I didn't watch radio. I'm like, I'm not going to watch that. I don't want to cry. I'm not a crier, so I'm not watching that.
Well, you could be. Come on, join us, bro. It's all right.
Come over here and hug me. I need a hug.
Well, I watched that movie before I ever went to law school, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's so everything. The world is unfair. And then I watched it after doing the line of work that I do, because I remember like, oh, it's a dependency movie. And I watched it, and I was like, what planet is this happening on? Like, that is nothing like the reality of what it is. Like, this is crazy.
They had it all wrong. Who was their consultants?
Yeah, like who? And that movie was made in the 2000s, so it's not like from the 60s or something. I'm
right.
like the law has changed, but I'm like, it can't have changed that
Creative
much.
director went a little wild.
Yeah, I mean, definitely going for the heartstrings, and I get it. There's a lot of human interest in our courtrooms, like juvenile dependency courtrooms, but it's there's not a lot known about it.
Okay, so is it the? I mean, I guess every time it's got to be, do you find cases where the parents are neglectful, or I mean, I guess yes, it's got to be more parents are neglectful than parents who are not neglectful but get a whistle blown for something that seemed completely out of line.
Right.
Well, I think it covers a lot more, right? I mean, it's like anytime there's a domestic issue and Child Protective CPS has to be involved, they get a case agent or whatever it is, right? The attorney for you or whatever. And it's like it doesn't really matter if the kid is being abused by the parent. That's a case. If the cops are constantly there and because they're on drugs and there's children, the police can file. And there's just this broad array of type of abuse, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it could also
bring a
be
kid
something like you're going to school and you've got your kid in school, and I mean, I know we touched on this briefly, but you don't get them vaccinated. Well, I guess it's just you don't put your kid in school. Nobody's going to file charges on you for something like that.
Right.
But is there any times that somebody has like tried to blow the whistle on somebody?
I mean,
not really.
Right.
Case.
And I mean, I can't really. I mean, from my experience, I'll have to say no to that. But what I find interesting is, to your point about cops showing up, right? If you're in an apartment complex and you hear your neighbors fighting all the time and it's out of control, you're calling the cops just because you want to stop it. You're not going to go over there and subject yourself to God knows what. Cops show up, open the door. There's little kids. There's drugs around. They're going to call a social worker. Social worker is going to show up, talk to the parents, talk to the kids, that kind of thing. But what I will say about that is, and I haven't seen this, but like it's crazy to me just how much, if you really like despised your neighbor, right? Even if you're not sharing a wall and you just didn't like them and they had kids, you could have CPS over at their house every day because the referrals are anonymous, right?
Oh.
And CPS is at a point, I don't know if you've seen that Netflix documentary. I think it was the trials of Jonathan Hernandez. It was a kid up in Palmdale.
I haven't seen that yet. Oh, that kid that was locked in the box.
Yeah,
and that was horrible to hear. But do you remember that, dude?
I haven't seen it.
Do you remember the case?
Yeah.
We've had so many cases where kids have been escaped from some situation.
No, this one was a little different.
Do you remember it? I remember. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, tell them about it.
And it's, this kid, my takeaway from it is this, with social workers, like the new breed of social workers, the new training they get, at least my perception of it, because I haven't been trained as a social worker. I just, I deal with them a lot, and it's just my perception of how they've changed since I've started about 7 years ago. Because of that case, I think the social workers involved there were charged criminally for not doing enough for that kid.
Negligent.
Right.
Okay,
because the big takeaway was, it's up in Lancaster, right? It's North LA County. It's not like densely populated like it is down here. They'd go knock on the door, and this doesn't spoil anything. It's worth watching, even if I give this little bit.
I mean, a lot of this stuff's general knowledge, probably.
And if you, if they knock on the door because they get a complaint, like, where's this kid? We haven't seen him. Mom or dad would answer, and the social workers would leave without ever putting eyes on the kiddo. Right, which is essentially antithetical to what they're supposed to be doing.
That's exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Exactly,
Stepping inside, seeing the child's living situation and the child's physique,
right?
The physical.
And the thing about that is that as a parent, if you answer that door, whatever you have going on behind you, as just a fundamental right, your right to property, you can say, no, social worker, I'm not going to let you talk to my kid. Fine. What that social worker will do is go to their car, call their supervisor. They will get a judge to sign a warrant. They'll come back with their...
While she's at the curb.
Yeah, exactly. Right there. Because if there is a kid...
I appreciate that.
Me too.
Yeah. If there is a kid in danger, it's better to have some temporary burden on you as a parent to make sure that kid is fine, right?
1,000%.
But that didn't happen in his case. They just took their word for it. And they went back several times. Different social workers did, I believe, because they tried, I think they charged at least 3 or 4 social workers. And part of their criminal trial is featured in the documentary, which at that time was like shockwaves, because before then, to my knowledge, social workers don't get charged criminally because you have the, I'm doing my job, I'm doing my government job, I'm insulated.
Right.
And so because of that, now there's this, what I've sensed is if there's even a concern like, oh, we got a phone call, possibly something going on here, this neighbor reported this neighbor, but this is the 5th call, we have to go check. We have to go knock on that door. And yeah, we've been here before. We got to talk to Tommy.
It's got to be
again.
a baseline, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can't just be, go over there. I don't like them. It's got to
every time. You can't have a social worker there just because there was a kid there once or twice. It has to be some kind of
there has to be some some meat on the bone. Right. It has to be like, hey, they're yelling and screaming. I heard one parent scream at the other in the presence of the kiddo. They're throwing stuff.
Or there were arrests, multiple arrests happening consistently.
Right.
And,
police
and
are
the
always
kid was there
showing up.
every time.
Right.
And,
something like that. So as that caller, and it's anonymous, if you, I'm sure there's some repercussions. I don't know what they are, but you could really ruin someone's day repeatedly by making those hotline referrals, because that one time they say no, and social workers have to be suspicious. They have to be like, well, now you're not letting me see your kid.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, in my experience with social workers, is that they're extremely nosy and impeding on your life. And they try to be polite for the most part. The ones that I experience are nice, but they know when they get there kind of what they're dealing with. Yeah. And they know that if it's just a situation that they have to be there because the call was made or there was something that happened, they're there just to make sure that everything's fine. And I can't believe that these social workers wouldn't continuously try to check in. That is the minimal amount of work.
Once you find out what that kid was going through, it just makes it I'm glad they were charged criminally.
Me too.
Horrifying.
Because what I remember of the story is the kid was between the ages of 5 and 8, something like that.
Yeah, he was school age, but young.
Yeah. And it was the girl's son, but it was her boyfriend living there. And the boyfriend abused the hell out of this kid. And they used to lock him in a box that was basically hardly big enough for him to fit in. Locked up. In the dark, right? Not like a vented cage, a box, a metal box, something like a trunk, something like that. And after they found out the kid had been, when the news reported it, it was like that the kid had already passed for a while, and they
this child died.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And,
oh my God!
And they find out that he's in box. And then some of the initial information is that he's been locked in the box. He's been abused by the boyfriend, and the girlfriend was starting to be okay with it. All these weird things, and it was just super sad that a child that young that you're doing. I don't understand that. It's like the Kyle Keesing story, No,
not the Kyle Keesing story. You're thinking of the other kid from Hawaii that had the eye missing.
No, you're right. His sister.
Yes.
Yeah, we
What's
watched Soft White Underbelly. We
God,
love to plug Soft White. Mark, if you're listening, come on the show.
Oh my God, this is the worst freaking thing that you could imagine.
Yeah. What was his name? Do you remember?
I don't recall the kid's name. He has an eye missing. He's on the Soft White Underbelly. For all those that want to go up and check this out on YouTube and look for the episode. But this kid is basically. His real dad was a gangster drug addict in Hawaii, got locked up. So his mom, had a tough time choosing a good man.
Yeah.
She worked 2 or 3 jobs. She was, trying to make it. She had him. He was I think 5, and the sister was 2.
A couple of years
4
younger
and
than
2
him.
or something like
that.
that.
A couple years younger.
And the boyfriend was just a piece of shit drug addict. That the mom made a deal with him that she would work and provide the revenue for the house if he just studied so he could get his degree to do whatever he was supposed to be doing.
And take care of the kids in a way during the day. She was gone all the time.
All the time. She's working day and night to try to bring in income. And this guy's just abusing the shit out of these kids. I mean, putting cigarettes out on them. And the baby would cry. And in order to get the baby to cry, you know how you throw your kids up in the air and catch them? He would throw the kid up in the air and hit her head on the ceiling
and knock her out.
And to knock her out so he could not have to hear her cry. Well, something happened where the police had been called for something. They're hearing some banging or something. They came in and the child had passed away. So they're, doing, how could the baby had died, this or that and that and the other. So as the investigators are in the house, they look up and they see hair and blood on the ceiling. And then that's when that leads them to understand that this guy was throwing the baby up, had killed the baby, and...
Yeah, but do you remember? I thought he killed the baby. I don't even like repeating it. The kid telling the story acts like he saw it. He describes it as he grabs his sister by the ankles and slams.
Slams
her on
You're
the
right.
table.
He slammed her on the door.
He whip slammed like a doll.
Yes.
And killed the child. This guy was a meth head.
That's right.
And so this kid's life just goes obviously off the cliff. And he ends up here in LA at Skid Row, drug addict, fentanyl. One of the kindest, best hearts of a drug addict you
could hear speak.
Yeah.
And his life is just, and he can't get off the drugs.
And he would get off and then he'd get on. And he went through hell. But we're talking about, kids and abuse. And it was just like, how do you grab the ankles of a toddler and whip it into the wall?
He was not your kid. Like, it doesn't.
I don't understand. It's crazy, I would have a hard time doing that with a doll. Yeah. Why would I want to even do it with a doll?
Yeah.
It was sad. It's crazy.
I mean, it's... I could be the one guy that had that job, and I could deal with those people for society.
Right.
That would...
Cleanup crew, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
I swear to God.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's the roughest damn thing, man. For me, it's kids. Anytime I see a kid hurt in a movie or in a documentary or anything, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I just lose it. My wife watches them all the time. I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, not to bring it back, but that's juvenile dependency, is that there's a kid, there's possibility they're being abused or neglected. If the court doesn't get involved, there's no guarantee that these parents will course correct themselves,
right?
Because they've shown they weren't, or they're not gonna.
I mean, even in this story, the mom was a good woman, multiple jobs, takes care of her kids, and this guy who tells the story talks wonders about his mom, right? I mean,
and it was the day that his sister died that he was holding on to his mom's leg, and she said, "You would not let me go, and I didn't know why you wouldn't let me go. I had no idea that this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sorry."
Yeah.
And her daughter died.
Yeah, and she's just going to work and doing what she can, and everybody needs to have somebody to be able to tell what's going on in their lives, and it's not easy. Victims of abuse don't share stories.
And they were little;
of their
they
abuse.
didn't have the ability to communicate.
No, he did. Okay, I'm not going to take that away from them, but the truth is, there's always, if you're 5 or 6 or 7 years old, that you can try something, but you're not going to listen always to a 5 and 6 year old, especially when it's that extreme. And she's obviously really bad at choosing men.
But he also would make the kid like swallow rubber bands.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yes, and then he would have to take the kid. He would say, "I would tell him not to do it," but he kept just swallowing the rubber
dimes,
and the kid
or
was
something.
never dimes.
And he was
and the kid
forcing
wasn't
him.
doing that. He was forcing him down the kid's throat.
Yeah, so they had to take him to the hospital. So it looked like he cared about the kid, but he was creating the damage.
Creating the problem.
Yeah.
Looking like a hero.
Yeah.
What the?
Yeah, so what to bring it back actually is that the time that you get involved is when the case is actually filed for a kid and someone actually loses their child. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, loses is, I mean,
okay.
We'll get to that. But no, it's a good point, because there's that misconception that, I mean, what'll happen, let's say in that scenario where the cops get called and they knock on your door and you and your spouse, whatever, your partner, were having a domestic dispute. There's kids there, but there's also illegal drug paraphernalia. Well, the cops are going to be like, well, you're both going to get arrested, but there's no one to watch the kids. They're going to call a social worker. Social worker show up, get some information from the parents. You got next of kin, who can we put the kids with? In the meantime, if there's no one, then it's going to be emergency foster care. And what they'll do, they'll get notice. They'll say, all right, in about 48 hours, 2 days from now, go to court, right? Show up. Here's the address of the courtroom, or here's the address of the court. Here's the courtroom you're going to. Show up there. And at that stage, when they walk in the door, there's generally a pool of attorneys. I think most counties have that, where, you're up next. You're next on the list. Either your client walks in, or you're about to be a new client walks in. I kind of know a little bit beforehand. We get, case alerts saying, hey, on this such and such a day, this case is coming in. And when they come in, I meet with them and I talk with them. And one of the first things I ask is, do you want court-appointed counsel? Because some of the parents, they've been, what do you want to say, institutionalized, or they've dealt enough with a public defender to where they realize I don't like court-appointed counsel. I'd rather do it myself than have your help, whatever it is.
Right.
For the most part, though, they're happy to have the help because it's not like criminal law. It's got its own beast, if you will. And most folks don't know about it. So that's when I get involved. If they want that attorney, they say, all right, well, when we go into court, I'll be appointed your attorney and I'm your guy until you either fire me or you want to do it yourself or hire someone else. And that's where I start on the process. Essentially day one. There's outliers where we'll get transferring cases. We get transferring cases from anywhere in California. Bakersfield might be, or Kern County might be transferring to us, or we transfer out, whatever.
Right.
So we may get a case in the middle of a case, where it's all the litigation work is already done, and now we're in a kind of what we call an ongoing part of the case. But on day one, to me that's day one. Like the night before, I read the report, and sometimes the client shows up on day one, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they never show up.
And the report has all of the charges or all the course, all the proceeding details, all the case details.
So a report. It looks like it's a petition, which is like it's forms, right? There's you can look them up on the Judicial Council of California website. There's forms you fill out. If in here it'd be the social worker filling out all the forms. Like you have a cover sheet identifying who the parties are. And then we don't necessarily deal with charges, right? That's more like a criminal thing. But we deal with is allegations. I mean, It's the same thing. It's a petition with allegations. If you're a DA or a PD, it's your charging document, right? It's the same thing, different name, but different outcome because it's not criminal. You're not going to go to jail for what happens in our courtroom. And then attached to that, there's usually a thicker report that really has the editorial about what went on. Because when most lawsuits start, you really can file like a bare bones thing as long as you articulate something on paper that we call as a cause of action, meaning that, okay, I can read this, and just from reading it, I could see why this may be a violation of a certain law or statute or whatever, right? You can't write something conclusory like, I don't like the way this person made me feel. Like, that's not going to be enough. It'd have to be like, this is what they did, and this is what it caused me, right? And then the rest of the trial is really exploring the discovery, trying to really figure out, is there more to this case than this charging document, right? So same thing. We get this petition. The first few pages are they're form heavy with the bare bone allegations, whether it's, domestic abuse.
Give us a couple examples. Yeah.
Yeah. No, a common one is unfortunately drug exposed newborns, right? Okay. That'll be a substance abuse allegation.
And what is that? I mean, pardon me, because I don't want to do I know what juvenile dependency is.
Right.
Like, because you said a little bit earlier, like if the baby's born with heroin in their blood system because the parent had doing it, that's different from the kid was born and now you're smoking meth in front of the child,
right?
And they're breathing the smoke, right? So what are some of the differences?
And we'll address both of those because some moms will have an epidural, right? And epidurals, that'll test positive, but you can tell the difference between baby testing positive for that and someone who's using throughout their entire pregnancy, whether it's fentanyl or heroin. Common one is fentanyl now, and opioids, that kind of thing. And so when that baby's born, tox positive or positive for drugs or whatever, there's a hospital social worker. They'll get that report. They'll talk to the parents. They'll call the county social worker. County social workers will show up, talk to mom in the hospital bed and say, hey, let's talk about why this is a positive. That parent doesn't have to talk to them. But here's the thing. To touch back on that thing, when that social worker knocks on the door and you answer it, and they say, hey, can we talk to your kid? And you say no, they're going to get a warrant. It's very different, I think, probably in that idea of what we have in criminal law where you're innocent until proven guilty, right? And there's some dispute about the origin of that phrase and is it really true?
Right.
But in dependency world, if a social worker has a concern, like, hey, we got this result back, mom, you just gave birth, you tested positive for, fentanyl, baby's also tested positive for fentanyl, but your epidural had none of that stuff in it. What's going on here? That mom can be like, I don't want to talk to you. And that's fine. That won't stop the case from going forward because the way I see it is that a social worker goes, okay, if I don't get information, then I have to assume this child is unsafe if I don't do more, right? So it is really proved to me that this is an anomaly. Prove to me that you're clean. Proved like it's a little backwards, I guess you will. But it's that tension of kind of talk about it before. The reason parents get court-appointed counsel in these cases is that, the Constitution, a great document that it is, kind of overshadows like the family life, meaning that
kids, period, I would think. Right.
And when I say overshadow, it's not that it doesn't address it and I'll touch upon it, but the founding fathers, considering where they came from, living as being subjects of the crown, right? They didn't, nothing was theirs. The king wanted your house, you had to give it up. That was it. They realized that liberty of movement, liberty of thought were paramount to having a free society, right? Maybe that's a clumsy way of saying it.
No, yeah.
You know, but for that reason, when you get charged for a crime, that's why you get an attorney, right? Because this is as serious as it gets. If you're convicted of this, we are convicting you of essentially, you know, your fundamental right to be free to move. You're going to jail. And so that's why you get that public defender if you want him or her. Same here. Even though it doesn't say it explicitly, maybe state constitutions have it, but like I don't believe our constitution specifically says you have a fundamental right to raise your child. Like that is, as a parent, you have that right and that responsibility, right? That is your right to raise this child. If you want your kid to be Methodist and want to homeschool them, that's your right to do so.
So that's not written though.
It's called there's a phrase going back to law school days. It's called the penumbras of the Constitution. Penumbras meaning it's in the shadows, right? Meaning that it doesn't explicitly state it, but like how can it be any other way?
It's inferred by process of elimination,
right?
So to speak.
Like one of them, the example I think is like your freedom of speech. The penumbras will say like, or, you know, the idea of the shadows of it, meaning not trying to hide it. It's kind of like, we don't have to talk about it because it should be granted. Meaning that if you have the right to speak, you should have the right to speak in public to a group. Right. And that's the idea, you know? And so,
yeah, the right to speak covers all. The right to speak, fill in the blank.
Right. Exactly. What's
not limited to.
Right. What's a good abuse of, if you can freely speak, but you can't have an audience, then there's no, what's the point? You can
only freely speak in certain situations. That's not freedom of speech.
Right, exactly. And so the same thing there, the Constitution will say, because your family is a fundamental liberty interest, you should be able to raise them within reason, how you want to. The flip side of that is your children have a fundamental liberty interest in being raised in a safe and stable home. But everyone's going to have a different idea of what safe and stable means, right? Someone wants to be, and I have no problem with it, someone wants to be very religious, raise their kids in, you know, Amish way, whatever it is. I have no problem with that. I'm not going to judge it. That's their choice. But are there
abuses that come with it?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. And that's that abuse where culturally someone could go, well, no, we always spank our kid with a sandal. That's what we do, right? And some folks are like, that's physical abuse. You're using an implement to hurt this kid.
I wonder if the Amish are violating child labor laws. I think it's a valid question. I think it plays in. I mean, think about it, right? Because you said that. Like, the whole point is, like, not everybody's idea of all these things is exactly the same. Right. And we have child labor laws.
But a labor law would
state.
Have to be if you're getting paid. I don't think they get paid.
Yeah, that's true.
They're working for their house. Maybe they get kicked out otherwise. I don't know.
Well, that's a good question. Sounds like a serious.
We'll have to have an Amish person.
I don't know if he's allowed in here. Was he allowed to be on camera? Is that a thing?
Yeah, there is.
If you're Amish,
there's Amish. There's
if you're
Amish shows.
Comment. Amish
Gangsters.
Did you watch Amish Gangsters?
No.
Oh, you guys missed out. It's only like 1 or 2 seasons. Obviously, it was amazing, but it just got canceled. I liked it.
I watched one where somebody was going to try to pollute the Amish mind of some guys and mess with them, and it was crazy.
I've only seen clips of it, but Theo Vaughn has this Amish kid. I think he's maybe late teens, early 20s. And he's on it in his Amish gear, and he's just talking about what life is like growing up and the different phases into childhood, into young adulthood, into all the different things.
Check that one out.
The clips are good.
Don't they have like a thing where when they turn 18, they're allowed to take off for like 2 years and experience?
I think I'm going to pronounce it wrong.
Did you tell me that?
That's not me. No. There's a thing. I think that's called the way the kid was pronouncing it. I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember. It's called like Rumspringa.
Okay.
Right. And it's this phase where I think you can do that. Like where you're allowed, he said, like when you turn, I think 16, you're allowed to go to like the sing-ins after church. And it made it sound like a big deal. Like before you can't socialize with other teenagers and you got to go home and you're just got to, do the home life kind of stuff.
Then maybe I misinterpreted because I thought like when they turned 18, they could bounce from the community and within 2 years come back and be welcome back. But if you leave after that, you're like excommunicated.
Yeah, it's way beyond
But I thought that there was a time like where they're allowed to go out, experience what life is at that timeline, whenever that happens, whatever year it is, and go do what we all love to do and act the fool, and then decide if they want to just come back and live simple. And I'll tell you right now, I'm 45. I think I wouldn't mind going back to some simple life.
Right.
No.
Yeah, you'd be the furthest one, bro.
I like my AC.
You could grow the beard,
they
though.
They would send you on the first horse out of town.
Yeah, I'm like, where's my V8 car? You got 1 horsepower right here, bud. Anyway, back to what you're saying,
No.
if you can remember, because I kind of.
Oh, we're just talking about, it's a difference of,
Oh, so yeah, like
no.
some type of situations where the type of abuse that maybe you'll end up kind of seeing. Like, so to recap, like what you're doing is you're taking a case where some parent or parents. Do you ever have couples, or is it one and one?
Yeah, we get husband and wives. Sometimes we get boyfriend and girlfriend. Sometimes
Right.
we get, you want to call them one night stands, whatever it is. But I'm assigned to one parent only, and I'll have a colleague who represents the other one.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Other parent,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And
Even if they're together?
Even they're together.
So all you're really there to do, because they've already had their judgment, so to speak. They've already had, in layman's terms, had their child more or less taken or being watched,
Right.
or like critically watched, and having lots of rules on their house. You don't get them until that's already happened.
Right.
And then your job is to walk them through the steps on how to go back to what a normal
life.
Right.
home
Trying to
life would try to be.
Right. On that day one, when they walk into the courtroom, like I was talking about, or into the courthouse, that is usually the day of what we call their detention hearing, meaning that the child has been detained from their custody. It's an emergency hearing where the social worker goes, if I don't go to court and get this emergency order, then this kid is still at risk.
It's imminent danger. Is
Yeah.
happens right
Like,
there. It's
right.
on the edge.
That without court intervention right now, this kid is
Extreme
gonna,
risk.
Right, something bad's going to happen. And bad isn't always physical abuse or whatever, right? It's just, he's got to course correct, whether they're malnourished or whatever it is, or the parents are fighting. The kid is physically fine, but in the presence, the parents are going to town on each other, DV, drug field, all that stuff. So day one is called the detention hearing, and it's an emergency hearing where the court will take jurisdiction over the children, not the parents. The court will say, traditionally, we're going to remove the kids from your home. The kids have already been removed from the home by that point. And they're either with grandma and grandpa, they're with aunt, uncle, they're with family friends down the street that the kids know, or they're in foster care. They try to avoid that, and I'll go back to that in a second. But on that day one, that's when I read the allegations. You get the flavor of the case, if you will. You understand what's going to be expected of this client long term, in order to get the court out of their hair, to get social workers out of their hair, and have their full custody restored to them.
Gotcha.
And in the way I've got a lot of Mike-isms, right? I try to relay to my clients like what this is like, and the two I always go to are like riding a bike and the game of football. And the riding the bike thing is like, look, right now your kids have been taken from you. You've got some serious addiction issues, right? Your history shows that. And in our courtroom, probably different than family law, or even definitely criminal law, your history is part of the entire picture, right? I mean, a judge in dependency, I don't know if it's required, but I think he is required, or she is required to consider everything about this family. So, I've touched on cases where, I have a client that had a DUI from 20 years ago, and it's getting brought up. And they're like, why is this getting brought up now? I'm like, because the judge needs to know. Because if you're 20 years clean and now you're making that same mistake, that's just, you haven't,
the
you haven't
history
course corrected
in life, it just shows that people have waves, roller coaster rides, and if we're in one of them right now, we're not letting you have your kid.
Right.
So it's all playable.
Yeah.
And I'm all over that. I think that your whole life almost always should be all playable. I don't always think that makes sense, but when it comes to your children, I think it absolutely does.
And it's that whole family approach that they want to. And the other idea is that when you're done as a parent with your dependency case, the idea is that you've learned to ride that bike without training wheels. They can send you out the driveway, and they don't have to watch you ride through the streets, because they know they've given you as many resources, tools to remain sober, coping mechanisms, resources to call upon in times of stress, that you never have another dependency case ever again. Because your second go around, and it could be a whole nother hour about that, but your second go around in dependency, the focus isn't what we call family reunification. Possibly it's, we're going to bypass you. We've already done this with you before. We spent a year and a half in your court case trying to get you sober, trying to get you into anger management, doing whatever. We dismissed your case. You got full custody. Year goes by. That family is right back in court because they digressed, or they were just shining everyone on, checking the boxes. Yeah, I showed up to all my meetings, but they didn't internalize it. And now they're back for the same reason. That's going to be a tough sell to the judge to be like, hey, they should have another chance. The judge is like, well, they were here a year and a half ago. Like, what is the difference? We can't keep expending resources. There's a phrase that is, how long should your kids have to wait before you get yourself together?
Straight up, I'm
right.
agreeing.
And
Yeah.
so the timetables it's this weird conundrum, I guess, in dependency. It feels like it's going to take forever, but before you know it, your case is over. Like it moves by so fast, and
It's
you know,
a hard road.
It's a hard pill to swallow, I'm sure, when you're in the depth of
Yeah.
trying to break free from the drugs, the stress of losing your kid. How are you going to find a job to make all this? How are you going to stay away from your kid long enough to continue to do the right things to get your kid back?
Yeah.
I can't imagine what they go through. I mean, I can identify with the idea like my car was broken into one time, or your car gets stolen. It's like I don't even want the car anymore, and you're angry, and you feel like this possession has been taken from you. You have that anger, but
No.
if someone takes my child, I mean, we all have this reaction to protecting our children.
1,000%.
And so now try and take my kid. It won't matter if they're on drugs. It doesn't matter if they're clinical. It doesn't matter what they're going through. They still have a love and
innately, just as a human being, like,
and
I
to not
birthed
let
this thing, I
someone
raised this thing.
take my child who I'm supposed to protect away from me, even if I'm doing a bad job.
Now, in that case, just because, and I just hear these stories, and I wonder if you've come across one where you have a parent who was on smoking meth and lost the desire to take care of their kid.
Like interactive addiction, like before the case starts and all that.
Addiction, yes.
Yeah.
And that the child's been taken away and now they're going to court. Do you ever have you ever seen or heard of anybody who says, take my kid?
Not explicitly, but I'll talk about that because I've got two answers to that question. Right?
Okay.
I mean, that's what lawyers do, right? It all depends. But what I've seen, is, and I had concepts of what drug use was before I got into this line of work. Like I've never like really dabbled or anything like that.
Right.
And I try not to have some type of like, looking down my nose at folks who are in addiction, but getting to this line of work, trying to help the people that I'm trying to help. Like I understand that the choices, like you'll see it, it's that phrase of intergenerational trauma. Some of these parents themselves were kids in the system and they were removed from their parents and they grew up to become adults to repeat exactly what their parents were doing because that's what they saw. That's normal to them, right? That's why like in a domestic violence relationship, it's so important to break that cycle because two adults could think this is normal.
Yeah.
Your kids seeing it and they're imprinting like that, just for better or for worse, kids watch their parents because that's who they're with the vast majority of the time.
Yeah.
And they grow up to repeat the same mistake because that seems normal to them, right? There's a part of their brain, some conflict in this going, no, this isn't normal, but it can't help itself. Like this is normal. This is right to have this type of fighting. And I don't mean like what Netflix show we watching tonight. I mean like drag out, just even screaming, like to the point of just being irrational. That's the kind of thing that dependency, I think, is helping trying to break that cycle of, okay, this kid was a foster kid himself. Now they're a parent. They're doing the same thing that their parent did in this county that we know about because we have that case file.
The wonderful whites of West Virginia.
Yeah. Well, and so there's a lot of that. And I think you said something earlier. And the word I would use is it's a very invasive process because as a reasonable, all of us sitting here, we can conceptualize it academically and go like, man, that's what I would feel this. But then on top of that, like you said, you layer on like a mental health thing, or you layer on like they're deep in an addiction to something that, beyond just weed. Like, I mean, something that's, deep level, super addictive, meth, fentanyl, whatever it is. Then on top of that, they're having a domestic violence relationship. It's like multiple layers. And then on top of that, you're being told, we're going to remove your kid from you. And here's, I don't mean this in a lie way. Here's the kicker. When they remove your child from you, they don't tell you where they're taking your kid. And it has to remain confidential. Otherwise, you may show up there and want to get your kid back, and there's no one around.
I
and
have
you're
a family member who had that happen.
Yeah, trying to knock down the door of a foster family who's trying to think, hey, we're a licensed foster family. We're doing the right thing by helping this kid. If this parent knows where they live, that puts that placement in jeopardy, puts those people at jeopardy. So you get your kid removed and you're already under all this stress. You're being told you have this drug problem. That's why you're removing it. And you have to look in that mirror and like, in my experience, I think this is just true of most humans, it's very easy to tell someone else what's going on with them, but looking in the mirror for yourself, it's a tougher pill to swallow.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And then on top of that,
and we're just talking about me and my wife.
And then now on top of it, you got the social worker who's, conceptually removed the most important thing in the world from you. Like, and there's, they've taken it from you. So you're going to court. Like, where's my kid? You can visit your kid in 2 days. And you otherwise, by law, they don't have to tell you where they're taking your kid.
Oh.
And on top of that, and everything else that may be going on in your family, and you're getting evicted, and you have no job, and you have no housing, and it's just like, I can't imagine that. Like, I can academically read about it, but what that feels like it's gotta be mind-boggling.
I've had a share of pieces of all those items, maybe a few at once at a time or two, but not all of that. And maybe it's my time to share a little bit that I had a social worker at. And I have been in that courtroom. I was 14 still at the time. My mom had remarried back when I was 12. And he just wasn't good at being any version of a father at all from the get-go. And the relationship was abusive, verbally, physically, emotional. Maybe one day we'll get into that, to the details of that. But it was really hard to watch my mom go through. While I'm being abused, I'm not telling her. So I can attest to being abused and not sharing.
And what made you not share?
The fear of
retaliation,
getting it worse. Because if what I say doesn't make him go away forever, he's going to come back and do this. And this is not a small dude. I mean, I was tall. I didn't work out. I didn't train continuously in any kind of martial arts. I wasn't like overly fit. I was just an awkward, more or less awkward 12-year-old going through the battles of having a new step parent.
And having puberty in itself.
And puberty and shit at school and getting picked on at school for reasons during that time. And things were really tough for a couple of years. And then they got worse, and I got into high school, and that my social life took off amazingly. And I had a lot of really good friends. I made a lot of good friends at school, but home life was absolutely the worst. I wanted to do nothing but not be home. And so when this happened, I went to my friends that night after the event, and then went to school the next day. And the next day was Halloween, so I went to school with a black eye on Halloween.
At 12 years old, right? Sorry.
No, I was 15.
okay.
14. And I had to try to figure out how to explain that, right? I mean, it's Halloween, so you kind of blend in, but not really, dude. And it wasn't a good day for me. I was not feeling it. I spent the night at my friend's house down the street from my house, went to school. Went to a private school. My religion teacher came up to me, a very soft-spoken, nice guy, and he's like, my head was just down the whole class. I couldn't fake it. I couldn't figure out how to get through the day in any way normal. And he comes over to me, he's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "Did your dad do this to you?" And I just lost it. That motherfucker's not my dad. Like, that's what hurt. Like, that I had to answer that question.
Right. And as a kid, I could totally see that.
This isn't even my dad.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't say yes or no to that. Can you ask me a different question? Right? But I just started crying. They sent me off to the counselor's office. I can't remember if they called the social worker or social services there. I imagine that they did.
Yeah,
They had a licensed calendar, and so they had a mandatory report. So I'm sure he showed up. They called my dad. He came from work. He was pissed, obviously. The shittiest part, not the shittiest part, but a really shitty part.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Your real dad,
My
not
father.
your stepdad, or
No,
not
my
your
father.
Okay.
My father.
Okay.
Who was in my life. And the worst part about that story for me, other than like it being abuse and all this shit coming to a head, was that it happened on my dad's birthday. My dad's birthday was the day that it happened, and the next day is Halloween. And my dad has to get a call the next day and come down. And then he has to not go and beat the shit out of this dude at my mom's house, right? He has to take me home to his house and figure out how to get me to school, because now I'm being taken from my home. My mom, she knew what had happened that night, and she watched me leave. I stormed out. I ran out.
Did she see what happened, or just found out after the fact?
No, she didn't see the event, but I came down, and I'm livid, upset, crying, angrily crying, telling him what he just did. He's yelling. I don't remember what he said. Probably. I'm not going to say that he didn't. He probably was. I don't know if I heard really anything. I'm screaming, "I'm fucking out of here." And I didn't curse at my mom. I'm leaving, and I grabbed my jacket, and I left. And I just started walking, and I ended up walking to my friend's house. But skip to some of the legal process. Yeah, I was given this burly looking ex-biker dude as an attorney, which was kind of cool.
Minors counsel.
And yeah, we had the court hearings were over here in the LA office.
Monterey Park? No.
Yeah, probably. No, it was right behind the foothills. Like, I felt like I had to go every time I drive through Glendale to get onto the 2 from the 5, right? Is it the 5? I always feel like it's the courthouse there, but I don't think there's a courthouse there. So, a child courthouse there. So, but I remember it being that we had to go through the LA Hills a little bit.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I don't practice in LA County, but I hear stories of Monterey Park, which is I think like exclusively the juvenile dependency courthouse. I don't know how old it is, so I don't know.
Right, this was in 95, 94, 95, so I don't remember if it's Monterey Park. I have a hard time remembering where Monterey Park is, but it's in the foothills of LA, right? So it could have been over there.
Yeah.
Could have been over there. Yeah, and we went through all that court proceedings, and I had to live with my grandparents for a while. And then they would come and visit. They go to my mom's, and my mom had, timed visitation with me, and it was hard. My mom would show up just to hang out with me, and she'd be teary-eyed, and I would be annoyed because I'm angry about the whole situation, but thinking now as a parent like what she's going through and having her son taken from her, all this time she's been raising me as a single mom, and now and she has no choice with me. She has to see me when she's allowed to see me for certain periods of time, and only if I want to see her, because I was at that age. And it was really tough for all of us, and I wanted to go back for my mom, but my dad was like, you gotta pick. You can't live with your grandparents. Your grandparents raised their kids, and that was my mom's parents. And he said, you're gonna live with me, you're gonna live with them. And I said that or with my mom, and I know he thought I was going to say him, because why wouldn't I? And not that I should or shouldn't have. Not that I should or shouldn't have. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be who I was if I went and lived with my dad. I'm a different guy, and I like who I am. And the things that I went through were struggles. I had some really stupid things that I've done, but I don't know if I should have or shouldn't have.
It's a tough choice to make. I mean,
it's really tough.
Everything going on at that age, what you're expected to do.
Well, you also had a group of friends because you would have had to have moved to a different neighborhood, right? And all that stuff.
That's why I chose to stay. I had gone from being in elementary school where I had friends and there wasn't an issue, and then I got into 7th and 8th grade and I started getting bullied. And so not only am I being bullied at home, I'm being bullied at school. So I would ditch school. On Monday, I would just get up, get dressed, make all the noise like I'm going to school, and then we had kind of a larger house. I'd go into the spare bedroom, and I would close the front door like I left, close it, and then I would tiptoe around the corner into the room, go on the other side of the bed, and I would lay there still, and I would wait for them to go to work. And I could hear the garage close, both cars. I'd wait 5 or 10 minutes in case they forgot something, and I would spend the whole day at home alone. It was the only solace that I had. And if I didn't get through some of that, I probably would have considered suicide quite a bit more than I ever thought. That I didn't want to be alive. I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
I can't be happy anywhere that I go. And so that was some of the stuff I was dealing with. So it was really frustrating to not be able to feel like you could tell somebody, because it was going to continue. He was going to get in trouble, and I was going to catch it.
Yeah.
Because we were home alone a lot. He didn't always have a job. So I would come home at 2:30 from school, and he'd be there. And I had all the chores in the house. We're getting into it, I guess. I mowed all the lawns. I mopped all the floors. I vacuumed the house. I cleaned the pool. I picked up the dog shit. I cleaned all the bathrooms except for theirs. It's a 5-bedroom house, 3 bathrooms, a lot of square footage. I had to mop the floor in the kitchen, but I wasn't allowed to use our mop. I had to use a rag. And I wasn't allowed to...
That's just some bullshit.
Clean the bathroom.
Asshole type shit.
I wasn't allowed to clean the bathroom. And actually, the whole reason I'm getting into this is something that you said about repeating abuse. So I went through all this. I had cleaned bathrooms, get next to toilets, make them spick and span. If I mowed the lawn and there was a blade of grass that wasn't cut, I wasn't allowed to go pick it up with my hand. I had to go back to the shed, fire up the lawnmower, mow it.
It's a power trip.
And
Straight up.
and if it was out of gas, I had to take my own change from wherever I got that, ride my bike to the gas station, fill up the gas can, and bring it back to mow the yard. And he never helped with anything. And honestly, I didn't get any of my shit done on time. There was always a day it had to be done by, and I never got it done. I didn't want to do it. But I remember there were times I'd be at flag football practice, and he'd come to practice and pull me out of practice because the pool wasn't done on Saturday and it was Monday. And he'd make a point to come pull me, so I'd come home and clean the pool.
It's a big show. Yeah, for him.
And you see this guy still alive?
Yeah. So what I was saying...
Do I need to go to his house?
No. What shit? There's so much more, man. There's so much more. It's like there was even interactions.
I advise you not to go to his house.
As your attorney.
That's wise.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to save this thing for another episode. I think that a lot of people could identify with some things that we could talk about these things.
But you have some familiarity with the law.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that stuff and with the attorney, and the fear of telling somebody is real. He was, 230 pounds, 6'1", and, back in the 90s, karate and judo were the thing. It wasn't MMA necessarily or jiu-jitsu. It was form fighting, and he trained, and he would make it known, and it was scary, dude. I mean, what was I going to do at 12 years old? Like, fight a 32-year-old man?
Yeah.
No. What was I going to go tell somebody so that he could treat me like shit more? So I understand that concept of a kid not sharing, and it's unfortunate, and they need people. And not necessarily that's what your job is doing, but you're helping like someone like my mom get back to what something is normal, right?
That's right.
You have those cases where it's an unfortunate case, and then you have cases where the parents have done these things to themselves. Right. But to share the abuse, that's real stuff, dude. I mean, when I was in my early 20s, before I had any kids, you hear these things, I'm like, I'm never doing any of that. None of that. I would get woken up. They'd be out at night, and I had to do the dishes, and they'd come home at night, and there'd be a dish in the sink. He'd come up to my room and wake me up by throwing it at me and telling me to get up and wash it. It would be midnight on a weekday. I'm 12 years old, and I'm getting woken up by a giant Tupperware bowl being thrown at my head to come downstairs and wash it. Right now. So that's constant abuse, and that's constant forming mental, I don't want to say grooming in it, but that's,
it's normalizing it.
It's terrible.
In a bad way, anyway.
Yeah. So I identify with a lot of it. So I'm kind of understanding of like what your job was and what it is and how extreme it can be and how sad it ends up being. And I want everyone to know that's watching this that you're not defending people that treat their kids terrible. Right. It's not what your job is. Your job is to walk them through the steps to be better than what they were to get their children back.
And that's, it's a valid point because, when I first interviewed for this gig, I remember telling my wife about it, and just like her, I didn't know a lot about what juvenile dependency was. I've been a lawyer for several years, still didn't know much about it. And I told her, I was like, well, this is what I'd be doing. These are my clients. And she's like, just stop. Are you telling me that you're going to defend child molesters? And it gave me pause. And I was like, because I can imagine a scenario where I don't get to pick my clients, right? This is the person who walks through the door. You're up next. And you get what you get, right? I mean, I read there. I'm like, okay, they do these things. It's not my job to sit there and judge them like, dude, I can't believe you did this. I have to figure out a way. How do I help this person help themselves so they can get their kids back if that's what they want? And that moment in time when she asked me that question, it's always stuck with me because I get it from
1,000%
from the outside.
With me, and you just said it 5 minutes ago, and I'm never going to let it go.
And it's like, and I get it from the outside perspective. I've even had other lawyers, I explained to them what I do, and they'll be like, oh, so it's, like in our county, there was a very famous case. It was before I became a dependency lawyer. I think even before I became a lawyer, there was a dependency case where a child was removed from the parents. Parents did everything they were supposed to do, got the kiddo back. And I don't know which of the parents it was, but the kid ended up getting murdered by one of the parents.
Oh my God.
And now they're in prison, right? That part got taken care of. But I've run across attorneys since that case, and I tell them what I do, and they're like, oh, it's people like you. It's your fault that kid went back to those parents. And it's a very, unnuanced approach to what we do, right? Because if a parent, like the law basically says, if you are, your kid was taken away because you're abusing drugs in their presence, or not even in their presence, it's just you're abusing drugs and your child is being neglected, or you're using, keeping your paraphernalia out, and there could be contact with like fentanyl that'll kill your kid, that kind of thing. you're expected to, once a case really starts, drug test, show us you're clean, go meet with your drug counselor, have your drug counselor report to us you're making progress, that you're, working on your sobriety. Sure, you may relapse, but relapse isn't fatal in our cases, right? It's expected when you recover to relapse.
Yeah, you're always an addict the rest of your life.
Right. And the question is, how do you respond to the relapse? Are you going to just keep going deeper and deeper? You're going to go, okay, I did screw up, but I called my sponsor right away. I went right to a meeting, whatever it is. It's that response, because that's what's going to happen in real life when your case is over with and your social worker isn't there over your shoulder. It's, I'm on my own. My gosh, I just had a beer tonight. I got to call my sponsor. It was a moment of weakness. You can still be that good parent, still not have another case. It's about learning, what to do differently instead of just devolving into that conduct that a lot of folks do. And so that parent is expected to, like I said, drug test, counseling, if it's drug related counseling, whatever it is. If there's like a domestic violence component, they go to like a batterer's intervention class, right? They do all these things. If you show up and the people you're working with, like your sponsor writes a letter on your behalf, your counselor, drug counselor, whatever, say, hey, he's doing great in the program. He just graduated, got his 60-day chip, whatever, his 90-day key fob showing he's been sober. If you do all those things legally, the court has to go, okay.
He's proven that he's done everything we've asked.
Yes, but and now I'm going to be the devil's advocate.
Sure.
Because at the same time, you did that without the stress of being a parent.
Right.
Now we're gonna introduce a child back in your life where you've got to now all of the stress that goes along with being a parent and trying to be a good parent, and does that add relapse to another level?
Right. And to your point, so juvenile dependency happens in phases, meaning that your very first hearing is called a detention hearing. That's day one. That the document's brand new. You figure out what's going on. Child's been removed. After that first hearing, your second hearing should occur within a month. It's called the jurisdiction hearing. Some counties do 2 hearings in one, where it's jurisdiction and disposition. I'll explain what both of those mean. After that, that's when the case really starts. That's when the case becomes ongoing. And your usual first phase of a case is a 6-month stretch of what's called family reunification, capital F, capital R. That's where there's court oversight. You have a social worker assigned to you and your family. Your child is living with a grandparent, living in foster care, living with the best friend down the street, whatever it is. You are doing your case plan, right? Showing up to your classes, checking in with your sponsor, checking in with your social worker, checking in with your attorney, while having visits with your kiddo. And that, if that phase works perfectly, you're going to come back in 6 months for what's called a 6-month review. That 6-month review looks backwards in time on that last 6-month phase. What happened since the jurisdiction disposition hearing and that 6 months? If that parent is making forward progress and not straight A's, right? You're getting C pluses, B pluses, then likely what they're going to do is say, okay, now we have to transition into a different phase of this case called family maintenance, called FM. And that is to answer that question of we don't want to have these parents fail despite all the good effort they put in. So the case is still active and it's family maintenance. What that is, the court will return the child or the children to the home of the parents. The case is still active. They're going to get a social worker that still checks on them. They're still expected to drug test. They're still expected to go meet with their counselors,
for some
sponsors.
established amount of time, though, right?
Right. And so the dependency usually works in 6-month phases of time.
Okay.
So when you get to that 6-month review, if everything has gone perfectly in that first 6 months, at your 6-month review, your case could convert to family maintenance, meaning the case is still open. You're still under court jurisdiction.
Probation.
It's very similar to probation. Your social worker is like a probation officer. Mm-hmm. And that what they're checking in on you, they're going to say, hey, they can see your drug test. Like, hey, you're testing on your color perfectly. Your meeting with your sponsor, you're checking in at your program, everything's going great. And that is the idea of, that's training wheels, that analogy I gave of riding the bike. Family maintenance is, all right, we're going to take the training wheels off, but we're going to watch you ride the bike. We're going to help you course correct. We're not ready to send you off in the neighborhood by yourself yet, but right around the driveway, we're going to see you do it on your own for at least 6 months. And if to the satisfaction of the social worker and some of the other players in the courtroom, in the court itself, if in that phase of family maintenance, you've been able to juggle having your kids with you 24/7, getting to school if they're school age, while juggling meeting with your sponsor and drug testing, and whatever else may be part of what we call your case plan, at the end of that 6-month phase, you're very likely going to get a recommendation for dismissal of your case and a full return of custody of your family. And that's how California solves that. We can't just overnight, here's your kids, leave the courtroom, because that'll set up too many families for failure.
It's a transitional down step.
Yeah.
to get back to that normalcy.
Right. Exactly. To try to get.
But to say that someone said, "Oh, you defended, quote unquote,
Right.
this parent," and then they went through all their steps and they got their kid back all the way through their FM, all their family maintenance, all the way through, and then that person ends up killing their child. And to look back and say, you assisted that parent in getting their child, that's not even playable.
Right.
This system is set up.
Yeah, but nobody understands that system like he does.
Right.
Like
No,
we're
but
learning for the first time.
Any doesn't matter. It's like you have to be smart enough to know that there is a system, that there was all these steps. We all understand that. We watched enough television to understand that when you get in trouble and you don't go to jail, there are things that go on for a little while afterwards. You're not just like you're guilty and you're not going to go to jail. You're going to get house arrest, and there's all these other things, or you're going to be on probation, or whatever the hell whatever it is. Right. Parole, whatever. We all know that there's steps, and to blame somebody to say that they defended this person, they proved what all the other people proved.
Right.
That parent could have killed that kid before the first event. That parent could have killed that kid at any point in time. It doesn't mean that getting that kid back to that parent when they went through everything meant that you did something wrong.
No, correct. And in his situation, these situations, you're right, but it's kind of like he's not every circumstance and he's not every lawyer. In the case, just throwing, this is going to be a curveball, but it has to do with abuse. How Epstein abused those kids, and the federal prosecutor gave him that sweetheart deal that got him off of all of those fucking abuse cases, and to prostitution or some shit. That's a shitty prosecutor.
That's different.
And I just found out another part of that deal was that not only would he get immunity, Epstein himself, any of his co-conspirators would also get immunity. And they're not even, I don't think they were named. It was just co-conspirators generally.
Yes.
Which is just like...
So he knew from the onset that there was other people involved, and he had to protect them for one reason or another.
Well, they could say whatever they needed to say.
Well, I mean,
if
now
you
it's
didn't
all
protect
coming
them.
back to he's a Mossad agent, and whether he was a Mossad agent or not, he definitely had high-level Israeli officials in his circle of influence and staying at his home on multiple occasions, and he had a lot of American influential people, politicians and businessmen, lawyers all in his circle. And if President Trump pardons homegirl, it's going to be... No, it's not political. This is human. It's crazy that you would let a pedophile out of jail.
Yeah, I agree.
A convicted pedophile that's serving 20 years.
Convicted pedophile should be lifetime.
Sex trafficker. I mean,
Straight up.
Because I just saw that clip the other day, too, where the reporter was like, are you, thinking about pardoning
Ghislaine
Maxwell because her appeal was denied or whatever. And he was like, I'd have to look into it, I'd have to talk to the DOJ. And I'm just like... And then the reporter followed up, but she's a convicted child sex trafficker.
I missed that part. I wish I would have heard that part.
And he was still like, and I'm not political at all. But like you said, as a dad, if you hear someone is toying with giving someone a federal pardon for being a child sex trafficker, what dad? I don't care how you vote, but what dad is like, it should be. Yeah, that makes sense. Like,
I'm gonna go.
And clearly he hasn't done that. And there's speculation that he'll just string it along until he's out of office and won't pardon her.
That's what I hope happens.
Some folks have speculated he'll pardon her on his very last day.
Yikes!
Right? Which is which is, and some, the speculation is, well, what does she know about you? Why are you so not willing to just be like, I will never pardon her? Right.
Well, evidently, Shorty got moved from a maximum security to a
club fed.
No. There's something there, bro. Mm-hmm. There's not nothing there.
No.
You don't just do that. An obvious thing. She's a child molester. Let's give her the club fed.
No. I mean, part of me wants to be like,
on her door.
Part of me wants to be like, as the president, you're up there, and there isn't more people watching you than any other thing. I don't care what podcast you're on or what TV show or movie star you are. The president of the United States is probably one of the most known people,
especially
in the world,
this one.
right? Especially this one. And so to say, are you going to pardon somebody and he doesn't want to be definitive, right? And I understand that.
What
and
do you
say,
mean?
well, let me finish
what
saying
would you
what
say
I'm going
if you
to
were
fucking
president?
say. Let me finish what I'm going to say. Okay, I'm just saying that from a position like that, he probably doesn't want to always, I would imagine, and I want to stop myself from saying it because he's definitive about all these other things. He's so definitive, right? As a president, you don't always want to be definitive right off the bat on random questions and stuff that nature. But in this case, he should have been definitive.
And it's not a random question for his situation.
It's not a random thing. It's all it's all over. His name's all over everything. Anyway, that's my thing about that. But real quick, I want to spin off when you started bringing in the Israeli stuff. You know, my son sent me a documentary, and I haven't watched it yet. But the day that you brought up a few weeks ago about this crazy conspiracy with Israel and all this other stuff, he hits me up that night and says, I watched this documentary about Israel. Dude, you got to watch it. It's crazy. All kinds of... You have no idea. And I was like, Bo was just talking about it today. I got to get on that. We got to have an episode about...
Yeah, we're gonna have an episode.
Talk.
We're gonna have that special guest come.
Yeah, oh God.
But I've talked to him a few. I'm sorry to get sidetracked on you.
It's good.
I've talked to him a little bit more about it, and he's not as well. I'm pretty sure he's not as over the top as I thought he was. He's really about elites.
Okay.
And that the elites are the ones pulling the shenanigans and creating the media. What's the word that we use? Not propaganda, but it's the narrative. He's creating that these elites are creating this narrative, not the normal people that we all are. Whether you're Israeli, Jewish, Muslim, or what, not the normal people, but the elites are creating some kind of. Not creating, they have created and they have done monstrous things throughout history, especially throughout the last 100 years in this regard. And it's crazy that some of it is right in our face, but because it's compartmentalized in all these different locations, you don't put it all together. And now I also understand conspiracy theories, and conspiracy theories are that. Conspiracy theories are take a piece of what somebody said and enfold that into all these other things, and let's create this narrative. So it's a fine line between the conspiracy narrative and actual shit that is being done that makes you think there's something to this. And in situations like this Epstein character, make it even more. Now they're trying to throw all kinds of shit at Charlie Kirk and throw him, and I don't think it has anything to do with it, but the conspiracy people are pulling him into this realm, and but anyway, long story short, we will discuss some of that Israeli stuff with this guy when he comes on this podcast. And Mike, they're gonna be like, no way. No
I'm
way.
Excited. So it's a little teaser for everybody that we have another weird guest.
But and there's a couple things that I just have witnessed. And one, before I get into those things, have you had in your experiences or in the realm of other people that you have seen work on cases where somebody's trying to get their life back in order and they're doing the right things, and you've got some kind of vindictive or power-hungry social worker that is impeding their process, their progress?
I mean, all right. So I'll very good question, and I think it's good. Social workers, right? When I have a client for the first time who's never touched dependency, never had a child removed or whatever, I try to, as quick as I can, make them understand this process, right? And I try to let them know who the players are in the courtroom, right? Clearly, there's a judge, there's parents, attorneys, there's usually county counsel. They represent the social workers. That's their attorney. Some counties still have the DA representing the social workers. Some counties still have public defenders doing the role I do. Other counties have gone to a different system where now it's the county counsel representing the social workers, and private groups of attorneys who are representing the parents instead of the public defender. The other player in the courtroom is what Josh was talking about earlier in his experience of what we call a minors counsel. In California, you could have a newborn baby, 7 days old. You could have a 17-year-old. If a case starts and there's a minor in that case, they will automatically have an attorney appointed for them.
Okay.
And it's spend a lot of time on that, but that's another play in their courtroom, and they get a lot of maybe I don't know if the word is weight, but they get a lot of consideration because, for lack of a better term, their client, this child, is the star of this show. Right?
Yes.
That this may temporarily burden these parents with having to do classes, but it's for the sake of this kid being able to be raised by these parents in that stable home. Right? That's what we're trying to go for.
That's the overall goal.
And another player, of course, is social workers. There's some other auxiliary characters in the courtroom, other players there, but those are the main ones. And social workers, and social workers to me, when I give my clients like the spiel of like, this is what it's like, I say, and it depends on the phase as well, because like I said earlier, cases move from, there's the detention phase of the case, right? That's the very first month or so of a case. Then you get to jurisdiction and disposition. That could be a month, 2 months, longer. That's a different set of social workers. And then once you get your case off and running into what's called ongoing, or the actual case plan portion of it, that's a different social worker with a different focus. And even before you ever come to court, there's what we call, I think they're called emergency response social workers. They're the ones that get the phone calls from headquarters, for lack of a better term, saying, hey, go to this address, go investigate. We got a call of child abuse, neglect, whatever, or police are on scene. They need a social worker. So they're the ones who are on call in the middle of the night. Get up, go out there. They're the ones who do the first initial report. They'll hand it off to the detention social worker who's written the detention report. They pass it off then to the court social worker, which they're responsible for writing the jurisdiction and disposition report. And then once that process is done, then it goes to an ongoing social worker whose job is to support the family in reunifying.
Okay.
And so that court social worker, to me, when I explain who they are to my clients, I say they're either going to be your best friend or they're going to be your worst enemy. Some social workers are drill sergeants and some are very kumbaya. And you can't pick your social worker, right? You don't get to micromanage that. You can't ask the judge, I want somebody else. And for whatever it is, I tell my clients two things. One is that the court social workers who write the jurisdiction and disposition reports, I liken them to like a detective for the police force, because they are trying to make the county's case, right? In that moment, their job isn't to necessarily say, hey, I'm going to be the social worker that's going to help you get to your services. They're the social worker that's supposed to find out what I call if there's smoke, how big is the fire,
right, and
what do we need to put it out. So for lack of a better term, they are trying to write their reports to make the county's case that, yeah, we need court intervention, right? And so, something I also tell my clients, the second thing I tell them is, I don't care who your social worker is. Your ability to be successful is on you, because your social worker shouldn't be trying to stop you from getting to your sponsor, right? And it doesn't matter. If you have a sponsor, that's your guys' relationship, right? And so now I'm not saying that there aren't personality clashes,
right,
from a parents or from some social worker who approaches a case differently than the social worker right next to them. And I got to be very clear about social workers. I have a lot of respect for what they do. They are very likely overworked. They're very likely underpaid. And you talk about my job not having an appreciation. When you're having to do that hard work of going to a home and saying, we're taking your kid, like, you're trying to do this job that you believe in. Like, I need to protect this child, but now this whole family's screaming at me while the police are restraining them, and I'm putting their child in a van, and they don't know where this kid is going.
Yeah, it's a level above probably the hatred for police.
Yeah, and exactly, and they have, to me, seemingly more power, right? Because social workers don't have to Mirandize you, right? There's no Miranda protection. Anything you say to a social worker, they're going to put in a report.
They get to be the judge at that night if they want, so to speak.
Right.
They get to decide.
They generally will, from my understanding, before any not a real decision, before that final decision is made to, hey, we're going to file this case, we're going to remove this child, they'll not on the phone to the supervisor. They'll say, hey, we got this scenario. Supervisor will be like, that sounds like all the boxes are checked. Let's file on them. Let's go. Let's get that warrant. And so they do a lot of that. It's just not glorious work. I don't think. Like, it's tough. Yeah. It is tough work, right? And I try to be maybe empathetic. I try to, especially now, try to see the world from different people's perspectives. Meeting my clients, knowing who they are in their heart of hearts. Like, we're talking about that kid, I think, on Skid Row. He's like the sweetest, kindest person, but he's got all this stuff that's just blurring that, right? And those are my clients. Like, they're human beings in there. They may do things that you and I would never condone, but in there is that human being that can be that good parent. And I think that's the purpose of dependency, is to chip away at all the crap around it and get to that and give that person the education of like, yeah, you can be this parent, right? But going back to the social workers, like I said, they do hard work. I don't necessarily get along, or I try to be professional with anyone that I deal with in the courtroom. I have my personal differences, like why is a social worker doing this with my client? Why are they approaching them like that? And that's where I think it's a generational thing with social workers, where the older guard may be a little more drill sergeant, right? More like, hey, this is black and white. This is what we're doing. Some of my clients
and they could be hardened by the position, possibly.
Yeah, jaded,
or just grown. And you're older than both of us, and you've got whatever your experience
People turn
is.
into conservatives as they get older.
Yes, they do. They pay taxes.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they have and who knows what it wears them, because like I'll go talk to this guy 6 months into this case. I know he hates my guts, but I still have to try to do my job with them, and the person doesn't want to talk to them. They don't want anything to do with them. As a human being, like I get it. Like it has to penetrate into your psyche somewhere.
No, for sure.
And I'm not trying to justify negative conduct by social workers.
No.
But as a human being, they're humans just like we are.
And again, it's the same situation with a police officer.
Right.
You have different types of police officers show up to these calls, and they interact differently. They approach things differently, and they're going to get different reactions based on that. And we're all people. We're all different. You saying what's normal to you as a parent is different from what's Bo as a parent. It's different from what I as a parent, even if they share like abilities. Right. It's your view.
Right.
Doesn't have to be mine. And it's the same with a social worker.
Yeah.
Their jaded view of what they've seen, or they feel like they see something starting, so they want to jump on ahead of time. Or you have a different generational type of social worker that doesn't have that experience.
Right. They're newly minted, and they're a little more, and you even see it with lawyers too. When I went through law school, we took this exam called the MPRE, and I think it's a multi-state professional responsibility exam. It's basically an exam you take not at your law school. You have to go take it in a different building. I took it right here off the 405 by LAX. And it's an exam basically of, I can't remember how many questions it is, but the way I put it is it's an exam you take as a lawyer to realize how not to lawyer. And that there's no excuse that now that you have to pass this exam in order to sit for the bar, you can't later as a lawyer go, I didn't know it was wrong to steal from my clients. And it's like, no, you took that exam that you passed and you studied that question. It is. But the MPRE... Can
they do that with financial people? Because I hear this fiduciary responsibility, and that's a word that is... It's not even... I don't even know why it's even mentioned.
It's an ethic. No. It's an idea of an ethic that you can't prove
it's an ideal, that
anyone's going to do for you. Yeah. I think I'd like to see if you'd be willing to talk about some of your old, not name cases, but just some generalized cases. And I have a question, like maybe you have a case in mind that like where you felt like the parents, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever was doing almost everything that they could, and something happened that is just a no-go when it comes to that courtroom, and they don't get their kids back. I mean, have you had clients where they're trying, but there's something that they've done that trumps everything they've done, and they're not going to get a chance at it anymore? I
mean, I one of the examples I can think of is, like I don't do criminal defense work, but clearly some of my clients will also have at the same time a criminal case.
Sometimes that criminal case is what brings on your case.
Right. If they were arrested for domestic violence or child endangerment, driving with their kid in the car without seatbelts, and they were drunk when they were doing it, that's going to be, a criminal case. Well, what is a conviction going to result? Is the DA going to go through with it? I don't know, but they have that looming over them at the same time they're trying to navigate our case, right? So the one that most folks know about is that criminal case. You can public access. You can read about someone's court docket.
Right.
In our courtroom, you can't. There's no public access to any of our dockets. For the sake of privacy for the kids.
Only when it's about the kids. So if I wanted to check about the criminal case, I could go check.
Yeah, you could go on. Right, you can go on the docket, and if you knew the defendant's name, you could look it up, and you can see on whatever September 1st, 2025, they were arraigned. Here are the charges: felony child endangerment, DUI, infraction for speeding, whatever it is, driving without a license. That you can read that kind of stuff on the actual docket. But I know when I I can predict sometimes when cases in my county are going to come into our courtroom, because I'll read the headlines over the weekend, and I'll read, parents charged with DUI with kids in the car, and they're both booked in jail. And I'm like, well, I'll be seeing them Monday or Tuesday morning, because they're arrested. Their kids are not going to go with them to jail. They're going to go foster. They're going to go grandma, whomever, right? Yeah. And so what I've seen sometimes is, and I tell these clients, I say, hey, do you have a criminal case? Like, I do. I'm like, when's your next criminal court date? And they tell me, and I say, look, until that case is done, like, I don't want you talking to any social worker, because the social worker, like I said, there's no Miranda protection. Anything you say to them could end up in their criminal case, sinking their ship, and now they're going to prison, right? For something they thought they would help them in our courtroom. Well, they're certainly not going to get their kid back now. So depending on how they handle that criminal case, they could get reunification services. They could be knocking out of the park drug testing. Maybe the DA doesn't want to offer probation. Maybe they would just, we'll go to trial on this. They have whatever. They take a deal where they're going to go to prison for a year. Our courtroom doesn't wait for them to get out of prison, right? It's going to be like, okay, well, we get it. That's a choice you had to make because that was the best deal you could get there, and there's no way to escape that. And despite all their best efforts in our courtroom, they're still going to prison for some other charge they picked up, whatever it is. So, yeah, like best laid plans. I don't know if that answers the question perfectly.
It does, but I have
that's a circumstance.
Some more follow-up on it.
Yeah.
It's like you have situations where, like you said, everything that's happening, but is there something that seems to be more where it's like the only word I can think of is like worst case scenario, and what I don't want to limit any version of juvenile dependency to be any kind of tier level. It's not tiered. It's either you're doing it and this is terrible, you're not taking care of your kid, or you're taking care of your kid. Right? And everything above that, some people can visualize and be worse. Like I left my kid home alone every single night, and they're not eating, so now I have this case because I'm negligent to my child.
Right.
Or there's also extreme versions such as I'm physically abusing this child all the time, and obviously we see that as to be different, but they're not necessarily different.
Right.
But is there one that's are there some that are just like the worst? I mean, is it just like the parents are doing drugs and the kids live there? Or is it like the physical abuse to children? Or is it that the child is watching physical abuse to a boyfriend-girlfriend situation?
Right.
And like, what kind of things are you seeing are the most difficult? That's the better
Right.
question. What kind of things are the most difficult to get their kids back, and that you see that there are situations where the parents have to do the most
Right.
to get their kid back?
I mean, I think probably the trickiest one is going to be, and it's not the worst one necessarily, but the trickiest one is when you have a parent or parents who have some type of mental health issue, right? And I'm reluctant to say diagnosis because social workers they're not doctors. They can't diagnose. I can't diagnose. Judge can't diagnose, right? We're no one in that courtroom, the immediate players, no one can diagnose what is going on with this parent. But it's that kind of same thing where societally, we've been around enough drunk people to know, man, that guy's drunk. I can tell by the body movement. Like, I don't know how much he drank. I don't know how long he's been drinking. I don't know if he's an alcoholic, but that dude is drunk.
He's impaired.
Right.
Yeah.
You can, with your eye, just experience, something is going on there. And the mental health cases, I'm reluctant to say mental illness because everyone goes through phases of things, some longer than others, some more acute.
Sometimes it's a stage of stress.
Right, exactly. Postpartum or whatever it may be. And so I think for me, the challenge are the mental health cases, right? Because, if someone is abusing drugs, okay, sobriety, that's the answer. You have to achieve sobriety and then maintain sobriety.
Right.
Like that's that answer. If someone is a domestic abuser, they either hit mom or they hit dad or they're hitting the siblings, but not this one. Anger management, go figure out what in your past is leading you to these choices, right? Figure out ways to cope, count to 10, go on that walk. There's an answer to that. Mental health, I think, you probably get some people go, well, pill them, just give them pills, that'll fix it. I don't know if that fixes things, right?
No.
And so the question is, if you get someone who, like I said, not a doctor, is severely mentally ill, what is the course correction, right? Because, and I'm trying to be funny about it, but sometimes like I've experienced it where I'm like, I'm talking to this person and based on their response, I don't even know if they know what county they're in. Like, and they're not drugs. It's not drugs. Maybe it was drugs in their past that got them to wherever it was, but now it's just this unmitigated mental health issue, right? And it is tough because it's like the first response is like, well, are you diagnosing me? Are you telling me I'm crazy? Like, no, it's not that. There's other professionals that the court wants to hook you up with to hopefully get it, under control to where you can have your kid with you, right? Because plenty of parents go see psychiatrists or they're on medications. They can still do a bang up job of raising their kids because they're actively trying to deal with it. And it's never perfect. Some, depression happens for any number of reasons, job, this, that, whatever. And so it's not about being, invincible to life's ups and downs. It's about knowing what to do in that moment. So, and the mental health issues, I think, are the biggest challenge because, like I said, not a doctor. So I'm like, hey, the social workers are putting together a plan. They want you to have counseling. They want you to do a psychiatric evaluation. They want you to be under the care of a psychiatrist. And some folks are just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take medication. I will go do my holistic treats and talk to the forest to get my guidance of parenting, and I'm just like, and I know enough to know, well, that's not going to fly in this courtroom when push comes to shove.
Yeah, that might work, but that's not going to work in the courtroom.
Right. To them, it will work. And then because at the end of all this stuff, whatever disputes I may have with a social worker or county counsel or minors counsel about a case, if there's a disagreement in court, and this is true of any other courtroom, if there's a disagreement, you have that trial and you leave it up to the judge, right? And so there are some cases where I'm like, yeah, this is a good case. Like, I have no problem looking this judge in the eyes and saying, here's what we believe is happening, and this is why my client should get their kid back, right? And there are other times where I get these explanations from folks dealing with mental health, and I go, how do I package that? Because here's the thing, because I'm court-appointed counsel, if at any stage of the case where a trial can happen, my client as the parent, regardless of the merits of their case, regardless if there's not even a leg to stand on, if they want to go to trial, they have a due process right to have that trial. And I have to help them have that trial. And even if I've got zero evidence that the government is wrong in their burdens of saying they're abusing drugs, this, that, whatever, I have to present their case, right?
Now, it may sound outlandish.
Right.
And everybody in the courtroom may go, why is he even spitting that out of his lips?
Right.
But that's what your client wants you to say, and that's what I've got to say.
Exactly. I'm not of the opinion, and I don't know other attorneys that are like this. It's just for me, my level of comfort is, if I have a parent who, I say, hey, look, the social workers are recommending that they want you to do drug testing, and my client goes, well, I don't want to do it. We might have a trial about that, right? And I can tell my client, look, you have a right to trial. I will help you with your trial. It's what I do, month in, month out. Here's what's likely going to happen. The court is likely not going to believe your explanation of how you tested positive 7 times in a row, right? They're not going to believe you laid down on the pillow of someone who just used meth. That's why you tested positive for meth. They're not going to believe that. But, what else do you have, right? Like that. Sometimes that's just what you have, and you have to try to package it I hate to say sell it or spin it, but I can't talk my clients out of it, right? I will try to tell them, look, we can go to trial. This is what's likely to happen. Do you still want to go forward? And they say yes, and that's what we do. I try to temper their expectations. I don't try to talk my clients into having trials, because having a trial is never without risk.
And yeah, because it's not up to anyone but the judge and the jury at that point. But do you defend them during that trial? If they decide to go to trial, you have to defend them. And so you're busy trying to figure out how to watch someone, and I'm going to speak for you because you probably won't want to say this, but that you have a judgment about this person and their child, and you're watching them fail at their steps, and you're listening to the private conversations and the mindset, and then they want to go to trial, and you have to go out there and essentially defend their thought process to what they're doing. And we said in the beginning, like, that's not what you wanted to do. You aren't out there defending child molesters, like your wife had said, right? Do you feel like you've been put in a position where I can't defend this because of my moral ethic, and you have a professional responsibility, so you want to ride that line and still do it and give your client what they deserve, which is a public defender, but also have a moral compass of your own and say, I'm not going to go up there and lie.
To turn down a client.
So as for my pool of attorneys, so this is true of all attorneys at probably any stage of their representation. I think in California that if morally you find representing your client would compromise your ability to represent them, you can try to get out of a case, right? Now, I'm not saying I've never done that. I've never asked to get out of a case, and I'm not saying because I condone everything my clients have done. Right. I because the saying that I go to that when you're asking that question is, as a lawyer, if you don't have the facts, you argue the law. If you don't have the law, you argue the facts. If you don't have either, you just argue, right? Like, you're not allowed to go, well,
I've heard that somewhere in my lifetime.
Yeah. And so So with my clients, like there's different ways to have a trial, like if I think my client will make a good witness, I'd be like, look, you want this trial, some of the best evidence the judge is going to hear is from your lips, right? To hear it from you. Some of my clients, I think like, look, if we have this trial, I don't want you to testify because maybe you have that criminal case looming over your head. And if you testify under oath, that's a court reporter writing everything down. Those records could possibly be used against you in the criminal case. And now your ship is sunk there. And now you're mad at me because I subjected you to the possibility that you'd have to testify.
Right.
And so some of my clients, I'm like, let me just cross-examine the social worker, right? Because some of the argument is, despite what I may feel about what my clients have done or not done, part of my job is to make sure that the government that their allegations are tailored exactly to what is going on in the case, right? It can't just be like, we don't like what's happening, so therefore, judge, you should remove the kids. It should be, is it to clean up, right? Can I get a social worker to either, and they usually do, if you put them on the stand, they don't generally tend to do your client favors. Mm-hmm. What you're trying to say is like, look, you allege this, but you never saw this. How do you know? Da 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 da. And they usually go, well, I didn't write this in my report.
My experiences.
Yeah, based on my experience, my training, I
body language. This. I didn't write the report like you were just saying.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so they're able to, like I said, putting a social worker on the stand is a tricky proposition because most of them, they have an attorney that helps prepare them for trial, just like I try to prepare my clients for trial, what questions to expect. And for the most part, I've never had a social worker myself. Maybe my colleagues might disagree with their cases, but I've never had a social worker on the stand and say, well, everything I wrote was a lie. I just don't like this parent, right? They go, well, no, here's the reasons why I did it. Let me really explain it now in front of the judge. And, and in that moment, your client may be seething like they're lying about this or lying about that. And in our courtroom, you have a client maybe with 4 or 5 different allegations, some substance abuse, some physical abuse, maybe emotional abuse. And this is true even of a criminal case. The county or the government only has to prove one of their allegations to sustain the entire case and keep it going forward. For the parent, they have to disprove all of them, right? And there's some lawyer mumbo jumbo here. And you may have heard this phrase, like in the criminal case, like beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt. And I never like those phrases. Like I like numbers. So percentage-wise, in a criminal case, the DA has to prove your guilt 95% plus certainty that you were the person that did this specific crime, right? And in our courtroom, in juvenile dependency, because it's not a criminal courtroom, it's a civil courtroom, our burden of proof is what's called preponderance of the evidence, meaning essentially what's more likely to have happened here. That you didn't do those drugs, that you didn't do this, and the witnesses and the cops who showed up and have it on body cam, or what you're saying, or what the social worker's saying. Which one of these two is more likely? If you want to put percentages on it, it'd be 51% to 49%. The government just has to have that little bit more iota of factually, right, just to tip the scales just a little bit in their favor. That's enough to keep one of our cases open, which is why I don't, my clients will say, like, we should go to trial on this. They're lying about this. I'm like, okay, maybe they are. But here's where they're going to get us. They're going to get you here, here, and here. Like, I understand this one allegation. Sure, that could be. Right. I'm willing to agree with you. Maybe they're 100% wrong about that. But these 2 other ones having to do with this and this, when it comes to your kids saying, oh, this is what daddy does, the court is going to order you to do services either today when you want them or after that trial.
Yeah, and that's what I was just thinking was like the difference in the criminal trials and defense is that when it comes to the kid, the state is defending someone who cannot defend themselves. And when you are an adult and you commit a crime on another adult who is innocent, they're there to protect those people. But they need to know that what happened actually really, really happened. That 95+% proof when it comes to that kid. All they want is that 51%.
That's all they need,
proof. All they need because the kids are a different level.
Right.
They're here to protect the kids more than another adult. And it sounds sad that someone's life technically might be looked at a little bit differently as an adult who was assaulted or whatever that case is, and they really need, or raped for the worst, they really need as much proof as they can get. But if they even think, and this kid said that, they're going to believe the kid and they're going to run with that. And I think that's great for our system, even though it's totally opposite of what it's based on.
Right. And the idea, because the 95% certainty, like, the Constitution, your liberty of movement, right? That's like a sacred right. Like the founding fathers were like, your ability to move about the country, You don't need your papers. You can just want to walk from this state to that state. That should be allowed. And so when it comes to a criminal conviction, what are they taking away? Your ability to move. We're going to put you in this box. This is when you're going to go feed. We're going to take over the autonomy you otherwise would have had. So because it's such a sacred right, the burden in a criminal case is so much higher. But, I counter that with like, but your kids are more important to you than you are. Like I think any of us would go to jail to save our kids from going through anything 100%. Like that. I'll do it. Right?
I made the joke the other day, like you'd make that friend joke where it's like, when you bury your body, you can call your best friend. I tell my kids, you need to bury a body, call me. I'll take care of you. I'm going to back you up. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep you accountable for things you got caught doing, things like that. But if you haven't been caught yet, then you need to bury that body, hit me up. We're going to go do it together. I'll make sure we get through it, and I'll lie for you. But not when it comes to, when you did something and you got caught red-handed, you got a deal. It is what it is. Right. But yeah, you love your kid more than you love yourself. Most of us do.
Yeah, well, the vast majority of us do, and I think it's to your point, it's interesting that the government's burden is lower in dependency courtroom than it is in a criminal court, because your kids as a parent should be more important to you than anything that happens to you. But the balance is you have the right to raise your kids. They have that right to be raised in a safe and stable home. So that's where that playing field is leveled a little more in their favor, because I think it's that conundrum of, is it better to have a criminal justice system where some innocent people will go to prison, or is it better to, have a system where the guilty go free? Right? I don't know how to, I don't want to be that guy who wrongly convicted and spent 20 years of my life in prison to find out, oh, we got it wrong. Okay, out the door you go. Just real quick aside, in law school, I think it was in my criminal law class, I had a great professor named Lori Levinson. She's, you see her on the news and stuff. She brought in a guy, he'd probably been out of prison for maybe 10 years. Comes in, he almost looked like, who's it from Crosby, Stills, Nash? He had like the handlebar beard.
He's one of the...
he's one of the CSNY.
Crosby.
Probably.
Yeah.
You think it's Crosby?
Yeah, I think it's Crosby.
And he kind of looked like an older version of him, and he was telling his story. He told that he grew up in L.A. He had an apartment. He was working on his motorcycle in the garage, and these cops turn the corner and they arrest him. Whatever, he goes to jail. He's charged with murder. And that day he just went to work, and he was like, "What the heck?" Like, it's surreal. It's like the trial by Kafka. It's like, what the heck is happening? Gets convicted of this murder that he had nothing to do with. Turns out 20 years later, there's this thing called the Innocence Project, which they look at cases,
familiar with it?
People who are wrongly convicted.
Yeah, familiar with that, yeah.
And so he gets out. He ends up suing the county, whatever. He, I think rightfully, should get some payout for that, right?
Yes.
And he did. Yeah. And I remember, I think one of the kids asked, how much did you get? And, the figure, I think by our standards, might be a little low for that. But he was like, I only got something like, the number was single digits millions. So it was like 2.3 something, whatever it was. And some of the kids in the class, not like laughed at him, but they were like, oh my God, that's so much money. And he asked this question, and he was like, well, how much is every year of your life worth to you? Like, you think that's an okay amount to pay for 20 years? Like,
there's no dollar.
No way.
You can't, unless you have a time machine, you're not solving this in any way. It's almost like it doesn't matter what you give me.
Right. You can't get that back.
Fix the 20 years of life that was stolen. I could have built a family. I could have raised my children.
And you imagine the trauma of going through prison. Like,
he's a different person.
Yeah.
He is not anywhere near who he could have ended up being.
And the whole time you're sitting there like, hey, I didn't do this. And the whole system's like, of course you did. Why else would you be here?
Well, I'll tell you right now, everybody's innocent in jail.
No.
Everybody. Right. You go in there and you ask them.
Yeah.
Everybody's innocent in there. Everybody.
Right.
Nobody should be in there. That's what they all say.
And so that's that conundrum. I mean, should some innocent people get wrapped up in it? So we have this system that's imperfect that will convict and go after the bad guys and put them where they should be? Or is it better to be like, well, because one innocent person might go to prison, we should just abolish it all because that's not fair to that person. It's societal risk we take by living here. I mean, because it could happen to that guy. That guy's just working on his bike.
Yeah, there's no way to know it.
Yeah,
but evidently there was no concrete evidence.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody fudged something somewhere along the line to get the conviction.
The system failed, and that would lead me to another question.
And that happens. I don't say that happens all the time, but it happens more than it should.
Yeah.
And it leads me to a question for you. Like, in all the years that you've been practicing, specifically the position that you're in now. And maybe this is the wrong question. Maybe you don't have an answer for it. Is like, do you have experience where you've witnessed the system fail? And it's tough because you're in a position where you're kind of defending the people that it's going to fail on. So if you watched it fail, you might have had an insight and say, well, it looks like it failed, but it didn't because I know that this person wasn't really actually doing. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I don't know if fail would be the right word, because it's just like the criminal justice system. It's imperfect. Like a lot of it sometimes is trying to put a square peg through a round hole, because you have human behavior coming against the black and white of statutes. Like, this is what it should be. And how do you try to reconcile those two? It's not always clean.
Well, the other factor too is the judge, right? I mean, you have judges who, like, so maybe you have one where you have a judge who really, really, really has an opinion on the domestic violence version of his cases, as opposed to the drug issued ones or a mental illness one or whatever the case is. But maybe they have something they really don't like, and they are the X factor in that case, right? So yeah, maybe the question isn't like where does it fail, but where do you see it bending in certain directions in certain instances? Something that,
I mean, I think for me, the first thing I think of is this thing called what's called family preservation. Because earlier we talked about family reunification, then family maintenance, and then you get to dismissal. There's relatively new policy in California, what's called family preservation. Because, like, I don't know statistics, right? That's not one of the things, like, I don't read foster care statistics. I don't know what percentage of this or that or whatever. I just look anecdotally what my practice has been. But I know that since I've been practicing, one of the new things that's come in is what's called family preservation. We call it FP. It is a way to have social worker involvement. Your kids live with you, and there's no court involvement. There's no lawyers. There's no nothing. The idea is that, California's recognized, for kids especially, that it is a trauma. As much trauma is going on in that home, it is a trauma to be removed from your parents.
1,000%.
And they've, even young babies, right? It is without a doubt a whole new thing. Who are these people? You're trying to bond with this brand new foster family. Maybe you get passed off to another foster family, and you're trying to reconnect. And, down the line is that dissociative disorder, right? Because you can't bond with anyone. So California recognizes that detention process, that day one, they will try to do with certain families, try to avoid ever filing a case. And that's called family preservation. And what I find, from my experience, interesting is family pres. It's a different batch of social workers that still work for CPS. They'll maybe get referrals for a family, and they'll go, all right, guys, look, here's our options. We can work with you voluntarily. You let us come in, check on you guys. We'll give you referrals to resources, drug counselors, whatever. Let's not file this case. Let's not have a judge tell you when and how in this. Let's work on this together. Some parents will be like, well, do we have to? And they're like, no, it's voluntary. And they go, well, we don't want you here. And then they're going to go file a case.
Yeah, you just started a fire. That's all you're doing.
Exactly. And then some parents are like, yeah, all right, let's go. Maybe this will help us.
Right.
So, and I don't know the numbers, because if an FP case works successfully, I'm never going to meet those parents, because the social workers did their job preventatively before ever having to come into a courtroom. But I see a downshot as a lawyer when I get a case and I read the history, and I'll read like a paragraph that says, family preservation started for this family a year ago. And from an evidentiary perspective, I think, great, they've got a year's worth of my client's statements, and it's going to be a slam dunk for them to make their case, because they didn't have a lawyer through that process, right?
Man.
And they're trying to, it's like no good deed goes unpunished. They're trying to work with this, trying to work with that. And God help them. Some of them, because it's voluntary, they realize, well, I don't have to do this. I'm going to stop drug testing for you guys. And I don't need to prove to you I'm sober. And it's true, legally, they don't have to. But legally, a social worker is going to go, if I have a suspicion that now you're using drugs again, we've been trying to do this phase of family preservation to avoid going to court, you're going to force my hand. Now they've got evidence, right?
It's almost like a police officer fishing.
It solves a problem, but it creates another one.
But you know me, I'm always like, hey, it's like I said before, you teach my kids to recognize the authoritarian figure that's in front of you. You don't get good results when you put up a fight against someone who gets to make a decision on what happens next for you. So it pays to listen, to say yes, even if you think you're being violated in some way, you're all innocent and all that other stuff, but you're better off saying, yeah, I'll do everything you want me to do, because someone who's coherently thinking that I'm going to lose my kid if I say no, I have a chance at somebody taking my child from me if I just say no to these items. All I got to do is say yes and work with these people. I'm obviously in this position for something that I've done. You don't just have a case for when it doesn't happen, right?
From my experience, I agree with that.
It's not that something didn't happen. The cops were called, or there was an arrest, or there was physical abuse evident or whatever it is.
Created this.
Right. So it's not like it's pulled from thin air. So,
Right.
you know, if you're at my door, there's a reason and I need to adhere.
Right. Figure
You
it
know?
out.
Otherwise, I'm just going to piss the person off. I'm just going to piss the cop off. And instead of letting me go home, you know, like they did back in the day, you got a DUI, all right, I'm going to drive you home, leave your car here. I know your cousin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, but if you're going to be a dick, nah, you're going.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And we talked about social workers before. If they're already jaded on the job, it's not going to take much for them to go, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Or
Or they're having a rough day.
Right. Yeah.
They got an argument with their wife or their damn kid or something.
In addition to.
Yeah.
And but to answer that question about where does it fail or where does it make sense, whatever, in family preservation, we want to call it some bitter irony. There is more social worker contact than during an actual case, once a case really gets going, meaning that the social workers are week in, week out checking on you in a family pres case. Now, once your court case starts and you get ordered to do services, family reunification services, you may have contact with your social worker once a month.
I feel like...
Right. And it seems a little backwards. They're like, okay, your kids are with you, but you're having a ton of social work contact.
Yeah.
But once a case starts, when your family is now actually in real jeopardy...
Yeah. Now you're not there.
Right. And some folks will be very glib about this or jaded about it because family preservation is a new thing. There's funding for it. So what do government agents do? Oh, there's funding for this? Let's really get going on this program.
Yeah.
I'm going to go conspiracy theory real quick on this and say this is a planned failure on the system. And it's sad because if you have a planned failure about a child, to set someone up to let them fail because you want to be able to protect the child, but you're also letting the child be endangered during that timeline.
That's a tough call,
So
yeah.
I would call that a fail on the system,
Well,
honestly.
I'll tell you this much. If you're not going to get family preservation offered to you if you're, beating your kid.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it.
They get it when they more or less seems like
Right.
they might deserve a
Right.
chance to
Something a little on the
divert,
fence, if you will.
to divert and prove that you're
Right.
not going to continue this, and I'm going to watch all the time,
Right.
so to make sure. But you should transition that into the other side. When the case starts happening, they should be there all the time because that's when we really know that it has continued,
Right.
and that the child needs a protection. But it's like, do you just not send them so that you can see if they're really going to be accountable and they can
Right.
really make those steps while no one's watching? Because no one's going to watch when it's done. When you get released, like you had that issue with, like, you can't just be done with it and then the parent ends up killing the kid. Well, I guess the best result is when you leave them alone and they prove to you that without supervision, without constant oversight, and the fear of the knock at the door on the random moment, that they have to be straight and they have to keep going right. Maybe that's why they do that. But still, to me, I feel like it's a failure on the system that they need to be just as involved during all stages. If you're going to be that busy to help them instead of filing a case, you should be even more involved when you actually did file it, because now you prove to yourself that you need to step in. So you should be there more.
So where are you now?
Where are you when
and
they
it
really
is
need
the
you?
family pres social workers, of course, different department under CPS than the ones who do what we call ongoing to help you with your case plan, right? And so, and I don't know all the inner workings of CPS and how they micromanage their staff and everything like that. But I will say that, what I've noticed also in the past couple of years since the pandemic is that we do, as a whole, have fewer cases, right? So that would lead me to believe that family preservation is working because fewer families are coming into our system, which is the goal. If you can prevent it, that's going to be worth that ounce of cure for that saying, right? And it's not always perfect because, like I said, I'll read a report. They've been in family press for 6 months. Now the social workers handles for us. They filed a case. And to your point about it, when a dependency case starts, like when I first started interviewing clients, and I had a lot of great mentors, and I still do, and you figure out your own approach to things. I used to sit down with clients on day one of that hearing, say, here's the process, here's what we're doing. And I would almost take like a little kumbaya approach, like, hey, we can do this. Let's go, let's positive, let's do this.
You want them to be better. It's not that
Right.
you just want them to have their kids. You want them to be
No,
in a position
1000%.
where they're capable.
You don't want them back in the courtroom again with you.
No,
Right.
no. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's get this done.
And I don't know what you want to call it, being disillusioned, this, that, whatever, I realize now my speech on day one to a client is like, here's your best case scenario. You do everything that's going to be asked of you and you will get your kid back. Worst case scenario is you do nothing, or you do it half-ass, and you won't get your kid back. They'll get adopted by strangers and you'll never see them again. Like
It's-
I just
it's
rip the
that or that.
Band-Aid.
It's that or that.
right away, because if they're not, if in that moment as a human being, you're not going to wake up and go like, wait a minute, this isn't, I get to see him every other weekend. This is, I don't even have the legal right to be a parent anymore. That is, anytime a case is active, that is always on the table, because there's two things happening at the same time in our cases. There's generally family reunification is plan A, meaning that the social workers have been ordered by the court to provide this family with what's necessary to course correct, to, hey, get them substance abuse counseling, anger management, whatever it is. Plan B underneath it, it's called a concurrent plan, is, okay, plan B is what happens if these parents fail? What happens if the parents don't make the progress? What happens if they bomb out of services and they just relapse and relapse and relapse? Plan B is they're also working at the same time with whoever's got placement of the child, whether it's grandma, grandpa, foster family, whomever, to say, hey, plan B, grandma, grandpa, caretaker, is if mom and dad don't get their act together, we have to go with another option for this child. And the three options for that kid are California's preferred option is adoption. We can go into that. The second one is a legal guardianship. And the third one is what no one wants, is like long-term foster care, or a case to remain open until that kid is 18.
Yeah.
They want them out of the system. So they'll go to a grandparent and they'll say, what's, you know, if mom or dad doesn't get sober, doesn't do what they need to do you want to adopt this child? Right. And if you get to that point in a case, it's called the 366.26 hearing. It's a hearing that never has to happen in a case from a parent's perspective. If, whether you like it or not, you do the work that's being asked of you to do, you'll never get to that hearing. But if you do get to that hearing, it's nearly impossible to win, because by that point, the case has been going on for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And you've exhausted everything under the sun to try to show to the court, I am sober, I am taking my meds, I am benefiting from anger management, everything like that. That hearing is called a permanent plan hearing. And that is essentially, what is the court going to order be the permanent plan for this child? And usually it's not a surprise, because very early on in the reports, they'll say plan A is reunification. We're going to support these parents to get them what they need to get this kid back in their home. But if plan A fails, we've already got plan B right away. And that plan B is an adoption, or it's going to be a legal guardianship, which will get ordered at that 366.26 hearing. That's Welfare
And it's
Institutions
preferably
Code.
done with a relative, I would think.
Right. So historically, I mean, from my understanding, you know, kids would go removed from parents' custody into foster care, that kind of thing. And that social workers would be like, all right, we've done it. They're out of the parents. We've solved that problem. Foster care, as good as the foster families I think that we have in our county, not ideal still, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so,
I could touch on
yes.
that. Go ahead.
And California now is shifted, and at least probably even before I started practicing this kind of law, shifted to family first, right? They'll go to a parent and go, hey, look, we're removing your child. You have a grandparent that lives nearby, even a close family friend, someone who knows this kid and knows the family. It doesn't have to be family. It just has to be someone connected to the family.
And if there's more than one kid, they like to keep them together.
Siblings, yeah, big deal for siblings to try to stay together. It's tough because, you know, I've had cases with multiple siblings, some special needs, some not. You have some foster homes that are licensed to take care of special needs kids, others that don't have that training, so they can't, so they will not ideally keep siblings apart. And the court has to balance, okay, these parents have a right to get their kids back, but these siblings have a right to be with each other, to keep having contact. You know, and there's a lot of, like I said, human interest going on there. But yeah, now it's this family first policy. So like on day one with the client, I say, look, I know maybe you don't want to talk to a social worker, but who can they get in touch with to put on that list of possible other caretakers? You know, who else can we have? Because sometimes what may happen is, you know, grandma takes the kid for 6 months and then something happens to grandma. She gets sick. She gets whatever diagnosis. She can't physically take care of this child.
Right.
Social worker knows, well, we can't leave this kid with them. If there's no one else on the list, that kid may go into foster care.
Yeah.
And if there's another family member on the list, even if they live out of county, out of state, that's still better than foster care.
Yeah,
right?
we were
For
called.
that.
Yeah.
I have cousins in Washington that she was a drug addict, a second generation cousin, and couldn't figure it out. Finally got sober, got her kids back, but her kids were staying with my first cousins. And then she had a relapse and had another kid. And I don't know what happened, but they must have exhausted all of my relatives up there in Washington. And there's probably 7 or 8 of them that the child could have went to. And then they started calling us down south.
Right.
And I just couldn't at the time. I had 6 kids of my own, and my brother had 4 kids, and we just couldn't. but eventually I think she worked out and stayed with the grandparent.
Yeah, and you said, the foster system is not great, and even always going to family first or whatever isn't always great. I mean, I had heard of a story where, there's a drug-addicted child is born, fostered by a great family, and then unfortunately maybe that same mother's another child within a year or two, and this same foster family goes out and tries to get this other kid, and maybe they don't get him, and they decide to do the family first thing, and this kid ends up with a family member, maybe an older uncle or something, right? Like the parent's uncle, convicted child molester, living in a trailer in the desert, and that kid's fostered there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we talk about foster failures. Family first is not always the best thing, and it's like, go back to that failure of a social worker. Like, why are you not still interacting in this child's life? There's no way that you're going to send a kid fostered up to a child molester who's maybe not convicted. I don't know the details of it, right? I mean, but it just sounds
that in California?
Terrible. Yeah. So maybe not LA County, but
right. I mean, so there's some area in the law where, right at the start of a case, if a child is removed from a parent, right, social workers have some discretion to be like, let's find the first immediate family member. Maybe it's grandpa down the street. There are a list of crimes, convictions. I don't know how the best way to phrase it is, or red flag items where, in that moment, they may not fully background check grandpa, right, to the same extent they could, but they know that the harm is a little lessened to this kid if they can spend the night at grandpa's for a couple of weeks before we really figure out should grandpa be doing this long term. Once we really look at
does he want to, all these things, right?
Yeah, does he want to? Can he? And if he can, does he pass our background checks? And as a lawyer, I'm not ashamed. I look up a lot of stuff. There's so much law, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Right.
So I'm not opposed to drinking Gatorade during the marathon. Like, I'll chug it as much as I can. Same with the law practice. If someone asks me a question, I'll be like, I will go look that up. I'm not. There's just a lot of it. There's some stuff I know wrote for sure.
Right.
But this code section allows the agency to, at least in this emergency placement scenario, keep this kid within the family. And then we'll figure out a little later, should we keep this kid there? Is there another better option? And really what one of the things they're looking for that jumps to the top of my head on this list of things is there a felony conviction or a conviction for a violent crime, like an armed robbery? That'll toss you out of the running. I would imagine if that person was a convicted sex offender, that they should not qualify as a licensed foster family.
Yeah, I mean, you hear stories, so I don't know the details of it. So.
And maybe it's just neighbors saying it, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, But if you're convicted, social worker is supposed to, okay, this is grandpa. I'm going to look them up. I'm going to run with, our background checks on them, and they have access to, all that stuff. And if they see the red flags, well, they're going to have that conversation. We need to switch this placement out. I've had some scenarios where the caregivers, whether it's grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whatever, they maybe had a DUI 20 years ago when their kids were little. Well, they have to bring it up. They have to talk about it. Has his his grandparent had similar convictions, right? Because that in and of itself is not a good look, but that is usually
doesn't
not
mean it's continuing.
Right. And it's usually not fatal for that grandparent to still take over that role. So, there are those checks and balances in there. I mean, they're not just dropping kids off blindly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfect
like I
either.
said, I don't know the story, but the person that heard it from believes that to be true, and I believe that to be true. And so it was very sad to hear something like that, that is possible. And then when and if that's possible, then who knows what else is being missed, And again, we were talking about the kid out in Lancaster and how the social workers were on trial for that because they're not getting their job done.
Right.
And I honestly think that this falls right in line with something like that. You got to be involved long term.
Right.
But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress on the state's finance, all of it, just everything. It's tough to do.
Now, here's the one. Like, I understand that there could be allegations, but once you get past allegations, and you're in a situation where a parent has abused a kid sexually, and then here's why I have this like a no past this point. Because I feel if you physically abuse somebody, like you beat them, anger management, you could go get help and you can figure out how to not be angry enough to hit another human being or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. In my mind, I don't know if it's my upbringing or if it's my societal infusion into my life, but when you're a sexual predator, those people have something wrong that I don't always think is correctable.
Right.
And I could be wrong in that assessment. But you just hear of story after story where the person was a convicted sexual predator. They got out and they repeated this same thing.
Because sex is primal, right? It's not something that you
I don't
can,
know if
that,
it's a
I don't know
wrong
if you
wiring,
can divert that. I don't
primal,
understand how you
what
can
it is.
change it.
But what do? Do they ever give kids back to those people?
So, right. And so dependency has, the Welfare Institutions Code has its own way to handle certain of these extreme cases. So remember what I said, like plan A, for most parents, their first time in dependency, plan A is going to be family reunification, right? Some ways to, like you said, course correct, give the anger management to that angry parent, whatever it is. There are also what's called bypass provisions, meaning that if a social worker assesses the event or set of events that happened to lead this family to come into court, they can think, you know what, this falls under one of our bypass provisions, meaning that we're going to ask the judge to not offer plan A to these parents. We want to go straight to bypass and set up an adoption for this kid, right? And that's where I usually have most of my trials. And in one of the, I think there's 17 bypass provisions. Some of them fall into what they'll call cruelty, which is a step above or worse than just physical abuse. And when I say just physical abuse, I'm not diminishing.
Yeah, you're
like,
not
right.
downplaying that.
No,
we're not downplaying any of this.
Yes.
If you're comparing the two, right, getting spanked with the belt is very different than some severe cruelty, right?
Yes.
Making your kid hold the TV above their head for 20 hours.
Torture.
Right, exactly.
Torture.
That torture is another word. Exactly. Cruelty, torture, severe sexual abuse, things like that. There's a bypass provision that says if this parent's conduct checks these boxes of this, you as a social worker can tell the judge, we believe that the nature of this conduct fits this bypass provision. We're going to ask you not to offer them services and not give it a chance to get their kid back, right? And that's what I'll have to look at as an attorney and go, well, first of all, is what they did, does that actually meet the black and white box checking of this bypass provision? Not to say, hey, I'm condoning what you did, but if they're going to do something that serious, I got to make sure that they can prove their case. And if they can't, even if it's one sentence out of it, I have to try to have that case, right?
For sure.
And so, but there's also bypass provisions for what you call maybe chronic drug users, right? Or chronic drug abusers, someone who, even before they were a parent, 18, get convicted of a drug crime, sentenced to drug court, they don't go to jail, they do drug diversion, whatever. They get out, they relapse again, another charge, another drug court, more diversion. But they're always getting arrested for whatever, public intoxication or having paraphernalia or drunk driving, whatever it is. Finally, they come into our courtroom because now they're doing it with a kid. Well, and even if it's their first time, the social worker, there's a bypass provision that says if you have a parent that has, resisted drug treatment before, even before they had a kid, you can ask the judge, don't give them services. What is the point? The criminal courts tried to get him sober. It didn't work. We don't need to expend our resources to do it now. That is a very common ground, and that's probably
we don't need to string it along for the kid.
Right.
If he wants to string it along and do all that on his private life, but if it's involved in a kid, we're not waiting around for this.
Exactly right, and that's where that phrase, comes from. I don't know the case that it comes from, but it's basically, how long should kids have to wait before you get sober?
Yeah.
The answer is not very long, or maybe not at all, depending on your history.
Right.
Yeah. And so there are ways. I'm not saying I'm in favor of it necessarily because it negatively impacts my clients. And at the end of the day, I still care about what their rights are, right? They're still a parent. Like the Constitution says, you have the right to this representation, defense. I believe in that. And I have to, but they exist for that reason. Just like you guys said, aren't there some scenarios that are so extreme that this parent shouldn't have that chance? And they're there, right? It's a bypass provisions.
Okay.
And there's multiple, like I said, there's 17 of them. Some get used more than others. The common one, like I said, is prior resistance to drug ordered court treatment, court ordered drug treatment, right? The severe physical abuse / cruelty / torture, that kind of thing. That
dances on the criminal line.
Yeah. So usually, if you're looking at a case where they're alleging the severe physical abuse to cruelty, very likely that parent also has a criminal case at the exact same time with the exact same charges. And I will tell that parent, look, if the DA is able to prove their case, like, you're going to go to prison. So I don't want you saying anything in this courtroom right now. I don't want you talking to anyone. You and me, that's it. This is where it ends, right? Like, everything you say to me, I keep secret. But I don't want you answering questions to a social worker, to whatever, whomever it is. If you're going to be in some of these conversations I have, with clients who are in prison or in jail, I'm like, hey, this phone call might be recorded. You're not going to say anything about your criminal case. Let's just talk about our case, right? Because their case isn't decided yet. So they wouldn't be in prison. They'd be in like federal detention center or something like that, pretrial detention center. I'm like, right now, your case is still pending. I don't want to help the prosecutor as much as I believe in having it. I don't want to help them make their case.
You accidentally say something,
right?
Then, and you found guilty of that, you're not only are you going to prison, but you're not getting your kid.
Right.
Even if you don't end up in prison for some weird reason, you're not getting your kid.
Right.
If you're found guilty of this.
Right.
So don't say shit, but you're just trying to help because it's your professional
right.
job.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what you're supposed to do.
I think this is like the doctor thing, where you do your patient no harm, right? Like I try and, as a dependency lawyer, if they've got a criminal case, like I don't represent them criminally. I tell them that. I said, if your public defender, your criminal defense attorney tells you to do something, don't say, well, Mike told me to do this. Like, you listen to that guy because he can keep you out of prison, right?
Right.
That's priority number one.
You have no bearing on whether he's going for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, and if you don't listen to that guy and you end up doing time, then you don't get your kid back. And maybe because I didn't try to keep, you from talking too much, that I haven't done my job. Whether my client agrees with that, and, well, I don't care, Mike, you're trying to help me out. Like, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to try to make my client's life more difficult simply because I'm trying to help them in my courtroom. So there are times where I'll be like, God, I'd love it if you could testify, but your case isn't over yet. Your criminal case is sitting there and waiting. You say something that you think is helpful. Yeah, Judge, I did do this. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm doing better now. I'm in these services. I'm in these classes.
I only did it once, and I was having a bad day, and
right.
I'm ready to go to these programs, and I'm ready to work with my kids back.
Right.
But you just admitted
right.
that you stuck your kid in a box.
Yeah, or something that,
right?
yeah.
Whatever the case is.
That ends up in a court report. Court reporter writes it down. You swore under oath that was the truth. Yeah. If the DA is able to get that transcript, you better believe they're going to use it. Like, you said this under oath, right?
Sure.
In front of a jury. And then you'll be like, well, you're stuck. And it's not going to help at all where, well, Mike said I could get my kid back if I did this. I'll be like, sometimes you just got to be quiet.
Yeah.
Like, it's counterintuitive. Yeah. I know you want to fight this, but look at the bigger picture. Like, I don't want you to go to prison. Like, I don't want to be that person that helped the DA send you to prison. You're my client. Like, I don't care if I like you. I don't care if I believe in you. It is the job. You have this client. You are looking out for their interests, all their interests. Or whether it's, and I'm not even involved in the criminal case, but I'm not doing them favors if I make their criminal case harder, because it puts them further away from their kids.
Yeah.
Let that process play out. That is that process.
Yeah.
So
now, even though you may not have, because you're still a practicing lawyer, have you ever had any retired lawyers or somebody who's not still actively lawyering that says
fucking lawyering?
it's a term I use.
It is.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Attorneying is not a phrase.
Yeah. Only reason I know about it is from watching pundits talk about lawyer issues back and forth, and that's how I picked it up.
That's lawyering, for sure. That's you can use it, dude.
And where they've thought they've either tanked a case or gave such a ridiculous defense that there was no way the client was going to get free. Have you ever come across somebody that's told you anything like that in their past, or stories that maybe in law school somebody said something?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
I've talked to like criminal defense attorneys, and I don't mean public defenders. I mean like your privately hired criminal defense attorneys. One comes to mind. I can't remember her name, but we had a client in common, and he was facing some really severe criminal charges, and I ended up talking to her because my guy wanted me to talk to her about the criminal case and how it might impact our case. And I just remember coming away from the conversation like, she is not what we call a true believer, right? And there's just like in the government, just like everything else, there's a game within the game. There's levels to this kind of thing.
Right.
And in lawyer world, if someone who's a true believer is someone who believes that this defendant 100% not guilty. I don't care. You can show me a videotape of them doing the thing. I know they didn't do it, and I will prove it. The government is all conspiratorial. They're just trying to punish this poor, whatever it is. That is that true believer. I am not a true believer, right? I try to reason my law practice in what my job is, okay?
Now, can I caveat that with, is it possible that the true believer is really financially driven and I don't give a shit? I'm going to get paid
that's probably
bundles
all it is.
of money.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. That they're, you
OJ.
know, and right. I mean, that's the difference
Just
between
saying.
the difference between proving and knowing.
Right.
That's really, because everyone can know what you think you know about OJ, but you prove it.
Right.
Yeah.
Good luck. Which is case in point on that one. In his case, criminal case, famous, right? Not guilty, acquitted.
Yes.
Criminally acquitted. In his civil case. Goldman's family sued him for only money. Lower burden of proof, preponderance of the evidence, 51%. Found liable, not guilty, but liable for wrongful death. Never paid a dime on it because his finances are somewhere else in a state that won't cough it up, I think in Florida or whatever.
Oh, really?
Oh,
He
it's
didn't have
Florida.
to pay for it?
No.
But that's why they went after his Heisman's.
Yes,
They
I
started
thought it's
taking
true.
all
Yes, I thought he had to
So
pay.
from my understanding, he was able to, he wasn't so worried about being found liable in civil court on the same evidence, found liable for wrongful death, for causing the death of Ron Goldman, where criminally he was found not guilty. A lot of people are like, well, how can that be? It's the burdens of proof, right? Criminal case, 95+% certainty that OJ is clearly the one that did this. Civil court, what's more likely that happened here? Is it more likely that OJ did what he did, right? Not beyond a reasonable doubt, but just what's more likely. That's why with the
the, like you said, preponderant, like the circumstantial plays in civil, right?
Right. Yeah, it does too at the criminal level. Plenty of cases can be won on circumstantial evidence.
But they're not supposed to be.
No,
But I thought, my statement was that I felt like more in a civil case, it's more playable. The circumstantial actually ends up being playable as opposed to in criminal cases where it's not supposed to be allowed.
Right.
This is literally Occam's razor.
Right. That simplest explanation would explain it. Yeah. And so, at his civil trial, he's found liable, but he's not worried. He's not going to go to jail from his civil trial.
Yeah, he just has to pay, which he's not going to.
Right. And he's already smart enough to because his lawyer's like, hey, we see this coming. Here's how they're probably going to find you liable. Here's what we do in case. Move on, sell your assets, whatever, get out of the state of California.
Become a resident of this state.
Because the thing that confounds me about just law is like you may get a judgment from a judge that says you can collect your, this defendant, whatever respondent owes you $20,000 for damaging your car. And you're like, oh, the judge said so. The next step is you have to go enforce the order.
You got to get it.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what do you mean? I just got a court order. And it's like, yeah, but now you have to take the next step we're not telling you about to actually go collect that debt. And that person's like, I ain't paying, and it's just like, and I don't know enough about that system to know fully what happens, but plenty of people can escape paying their debts, right?
I've just wondered about the guy, he has the podcast that he got sued for the Sandy Hook.
Alex Jones.
Jones. I don't think he's had to pay that. I kept hearing
he declared bankruptcy though too, I think. I don't know if that's his way to try to escape it, but I thought he did.
There was a judge ordered him to pay it.
Yeah.
And then he tried to get out of it, and the judge went back and ordered him to pay it again.
Right.
I don't think he's ever had to pay a dime.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't looked, but I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what the outcome of that is. Same kind of thing. It's like there's a court order, and I don't know what the answer is, right? And that's the same kind of thing. But anyway, going back to him, that's that difference between, and that's an example I use with my clients. I'm like, hey, your criminal case, this is that burden. OJ not guilty. Almost on the same facts, liable for wrongful death. So guilt versus liability. Guilt is you are criminally proven guilty of committing or violating this crime. Liable is, you're liable, so now you have to pay money. And because it's just money, the burden of proof is lower because you're not losing your liberty. You don't go to jail for wrongful death. You just have to pay out a sum of money.
You guys know.
I never equated it with just the money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Maybe there's some type of sanction, like you can no longer do this type of activity or whatever, but you're not going to jail for it.
So that's anything's better than going to jail at that point, But
we're putting our finances in Florida law next week.
But I think another really big crazy part of like that circumstantial thing playing into civil cases is that OJ wrote that book, co-wrote the book.
Yeah, If I Did It.
If I Did It, right? And when they won the rights to his book, and they got rid of the word if, and they moved it to really small, and they made I did it really. I read the book, and it says I did it. But if you look inside the I, there's a little word called if, a little word called if, a little.
I don't know they did
little
that.
F, and they changed it because they own the rights to it because he couldn't pay, so they started taking his whatever that they could, right? So,
well,
I read the book. He fucking did it. OJ did it.
Everybody knows he did it.
Damn it, OJ.
Have you ever watched the documentary "The Wonderful Whites of West Virginia"?
No,
dude. How did I not share that with you yet?
You may have.
I love that thing. I watched it more than once.
Okay, yeah, I haven't watched it multiple times.
I
This
thoroughly
is a
enjoyed
story
that thing.
about the most backwards family that you could find in.
It's the Appalachians over in West Virginia.
Yes, West Virginia.
And Mark Leda of Soft White Underbelly had to cut you off real quick. Did change his whole idea of what he was going to start doing. He was basically doing stuff in Skid Row at first, and he said, there's only so many stories I can do on prostitutes on Figueroa and fentanyl addicts or crack addicts or whatever the gamut is. And he goes, and I went to Appalachia to find something different, a different type of poverty. And I found it to be the exact same things.
Yes.
The drugs, the abuses, the things of that nature. It's not different. It does not. Addiction does not, separate anybody from anything else. It
By
grabs
geography?
No, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Yeah.
So anyway, this family is third generation work the system. The father or the grandfather, depending on where you were in this lineage, was a coal miner and then got injured on the job and got into welfare. Well, then he figured that if he could claim mental instability, that he would get benefits for life. So then he started to teach every one of the kids coming up generationally, this is how you do it. So now all of them are declared some type of mental disability, and they all get benefits, welfare for lifetime.
By the way, they ain't acting anymore.
There's no
mental problems there for sure.
Yeah, you have to watch this documentary. But there's this scene, bro. The one girl's pregnant. She's doing drugs. They're filming her. And she's pregnant and she's high as a kite.
Smoking cigarettes the whole time.
The whole thing. The kid's bouncing off the bed. Fuck,
I think I know
I'm gonna KO that one. It's crazy shit. You have to watch.
You gotta watch.
But long story short, she goes and she delivers the baby. CPS comes and she's doing drugs at the hospital right after she has the kid.
Yeah.
And of course, baby tested positive for drugs. CPS comes in, takes the baby. Well, her sister goes and gets her, and the whole family's addicted. Goes and gets her from the hospital and is driving her back. And they're going through the Taco Bell parking lot, and there's a family inside the window. And the one sister's driving, and the poor sister's that just lost a kid to CPS, all these issues, is in the seat next to her. And the one that's driving, yeah, she lost. CPS got her baby.
Sounds just like her.
Got her baby. And then the people are like, hi, knock on the glass. CPS got her baby.
It's so bad. And then the blonde one who just lost her, she's got a cigarette in her mouth. Yeah, but the CPS took my baby.
Yeah.
But we're just going to go get some weed and fucking get the baby back later. Like, she literally just left the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably seeing people like this.
I mean, I'd love to say, I can find. I love gallows humor, so I can laugh right along with that.
Right.
I would love to say I'm surprised or like shocked. Like, what? No way.
Oh my god.
Right. Maybe 9 years ago, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But 8 years into this, I'm like, no. Unfortunately, that makes total sense. Yeah, I get it.
Yep, I know her.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
I mean, and there's so much to unpack in this documentary. Well, I'm going to let you watch it for the full experience of absorbing
I tell
all.
everybody to watch it. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
It's
yes,
crazy.
to say the least. But drug addiction is the forefront of this
100%.
family's problems.
Yeah. It's very common.
Yeah.
A lot of families.
Yeah. Gosh. But it's your God-given right.
Yeah, right.
To an extent,
Right.
until some point.
To some point.
some point.
Until it affects somebody else.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, I want to. Bo and I were discussing Halloween Horror Nights.
Okay.
Last week, and
a hell of
the
a
episode's
transition
not
right
quite
there.
released yet, but I shared some insight about how, me and Ryan experience, and I was trying to experience the whole park during that time, and I gave him a little bit of a few walkthrough areas of Terrifier, which I'm not going to share with you because I don't want to ruin it for you.
I know too much about it already.
He's never seen, so I'm also going to tell you about Mike. If we're going to go hang out, right, and the four of us, me, my buddy Chris, his brother, and our buddy Ryan, we're going to go hang out in Palm Springs, whatever we're going to do, and I might say something like, oh, we're going to watch this movie. Or even later that day, we're gonna, and he'll jump on his fucking phone and read the synopsis and see who's
That's
in
not
it.
true.
And that is so
Not
fucking
true. Not
true.
true.
Seen him do it.
It's partially true.
So he always does that. So, and when I told him to watch the Jim Jeffries one, I told us in the group text, we're going to watch it in Palm Springs. Don't watch if you watch it. And Mike, don't fucking watch clips. Don't read what it's about. He's already seen clips.
I've already seen clips. I know Jim Jeffries.
But he does it. So it's like, why do you know about Terrifier already?
Well, because my daughter, who's going with us this weekend, is like, she's nervous to go. She's already been to Halloween Horror Nights, but she knows about Terrifier. She's seen some of them. So she's watching all the TikToks about it. So she's like, Dad,
so she started. Okay.
She's like, Dad, this is going to happen. I'm like, I don't want to know, actually. I'm happy to just experience it.
Yeah.
Yes.
She told me about, I think, is it the Jason or Friday the 13th? Is there a Friday the 13th?
I can't remember. Oh, there is one.
Okay.
One, yeah. She
was like going off about that. To me, that one sounded awesome, but I'm like, stop. I just want to experience it. I will clarify your statement. I will want to know like what year
Legalese.
Words matter. And I had a different career before I became a lawyer, so I do love movies still. I love all the entertainment stuff. I will want to know like what year a movie came out, what other movies, like maybe the director have directed, who wrote it, who the cast is. But as far as like I want to spoil myself for the plot, I don't do that. I try to avoid like the actual story itself. Right.
Okay.
I do look things up. Like I love IMDb. I'm like,
me too.
When did Terrifier 2 come out? Oh my God. I remember, I'm like, oh, that year I was doing this. That movie came out. I didn't even realize it till years later. Like I didn't hear about Terrifier until Terrifier 3 came out. That's the Christmas one, right?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear about it until we had a podcast.
Yeah. So anyway, he's lying. He looks that shit up. So, but he hadn't seen any Terrifier. So
Good for you.
Gave him some,
Good for you.
some synopsises. But I would love for you to share your Palm Springs experience with the Terrifier film sets.
So before I saw any of the movies, I did watch there's an actor, is it Michael Rosenbaum? He played Lex Luthor on Smallville. Okay. He has a podcast now where he interviews actors. Maybe not, if we want to break him down in a category, not always the A-listers, but just any working actor, character actor, whatever. He had on the director of the Terrifiers before, early this year. He had him on a whole episode about it. I only saw clips of that, like talking about what was the production like, how did you come up with the effects on your own. And what I appreciate about that guy is that a lot of it is DIY, right? Like there's no major studio funding it at the time because it's Gore Fest City.
Yeah.
And just like the old, the Night of the Living Dead's, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, like Tom Savini and his horror effects of ripping guts and the zombies are pulling stuff out. Like it doesn't, like I still get grossed out by it, but I also appreciate like they had to invent that day of, they're doing this.
Yes.
The same thing when he's describing what it's like on set for Terrifier. He's like, the question was like, how did you decide you were going to do this to that one victim? And he's like, well, we wrote it and we just had to do it. And I appreciate that kind of like, almost like a startup, like we have to get this done.
Right.
We are going to do it. And maybe it doesn't look believable. Clearly, I don't think Terrifier is meant to look believable because it's just...
Yeah, because he said it was the worst.
Yeah.
It is the most gory films that we've probably seen.
Yeah.
Like you've seen. I know it's up there for mine for sure.
And it definitely is gory. But what my critique of it is that between the gore, there's just so much like dead space of just like, we're going to follow this uninteresting character around at high school. And I'm just waiting for the gore. Like, come on. Like, we know why we're here. I don't need a 2-hour plus movie. I don't care about her psychology. I don't care what dad left her a notebook with drawings. Just get to the gore.
Yes. I don't care about the sword thing.
Yeah.
I don't,
This should be a 45-minute movie. But like, I understand it. That you want to make it theatrical. I understand. So, and I get it. I also
kind of like porn.
I want to make it theatrical. Let's find some people like that.
And you just go
I like the gore.
I don't want to see the spacecraft come down with the alien.
I'm not here for the acting. I'm here for the special effects. So
that's right. Special effects.
And my other problem with like a gore movie, I'm like, okay, I got it. You're very inventive. Like, as much as I appreciate the work it took to create that effect, I'm like, okay, another effect. Got it. Like, I like stories. Like, I want to see characters.
At least in Friday.
This, that, you know.
I'm going to leave it
You
alone.
say Friday the 13th had a plot? Oh, my God.
No, not the plot. They had nude scenes in between them.
Special effects.
Special effects. Yeah, but I was telling him how, like, the first one was just really slow and the gore was good, but there weren't as many.
Right.
And then in 2, there were more, but it was still really slow. And 3...
It's ratcheted up for sure. Yeah.
They just went, right?
And it's hard to believe that, you know, in the first one, because I remember watching it, and I was watching it, I think, with my wife and my older kid, and it got to that scene in the garage where the lady's hanging upside down. I won't describe it anymore. I was like, my wife was like, turn this off. We're not watching with our kid. And like, we hadn't even seen anything. We just got the idea that was about to happen. And we're like, off.
Sounds like something my wife would say.
Yeah. And like, in that moment, I was like, I agree with you. I am not going to be watching this. We watched it in Palm Springs, and I was like, okay, like, am I happy to have seen it? Sure, fine. I'm glad I watched. Like, that's a memorable scene. Like, I get it.
It is.
It's like that scene at the end of Hostel with the blowtorch and the chick's eyeball. Like, horrifying. But like, I remember it.
I remember it. The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, same thing. And Hills Have Eyes. Like, I love that movie. The remake. That's a fantastic movie. That guy, after he did that, did Piranha.
My God, yeah. This guy! I forgot this whole part of my trip with him. Is that he made us watch? How many piranhas did we watch?
I did not make anyone. I was not made to watch Terrifier. I volunteered.
You did, but you made us watch Piranha in 3D and 3 double D special effects.
And the first, the 3D, the one with Jerry O'Connell's in it. Like, that's a fun movie.
Yeah,
like, that director at that time,
he
was, you know, he had Hollywood pie in his palm, and he wanted to remake a Piranha. He did. It made it a gore fest, but I thought, I was like, even though the characters in Piranha are shallow for the most part, the filler in between is still fun. Like, there's funny jokes.
There was
it's
funny
campy.
parts. There were sexual references. Lots of funny things to enjoy.
Jerry O'Connell's character is the club promoter.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah, and he's hilarious because it's like, it's against type because it's Jerry O'Connell, and he's just like the worst of the worst, and it's funny.
Yeah.
and these awful things happen. It's predictable, but like, it's so watchable compared to the next Piranha, different director. It should be fun to watch, but it's not as fun to watch, I don't think.
It wasn't.
But
the 3 double D?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
And which one was The Hills Have Eyes again? That's the one where they crossed over into the fog in that town where everybody was...
No, that's The Mist.
Or
right,
no, that's
The Mist.
that. Yeah, I know. It's not Resident Evil. Silent Hill, I think.
Silent Hill.
That's what that one.
No,
like
The Hills
that
Have Eyes
first
takes
Silent
place in a desert town.
Yeah.
The original one's older, right?
It's a remake of Wes Craven's version of The Hills Have Eyes.
What year do you remember around about the time that Wes Craven's first came out?
It's going to be mid to late 70s, I think.
Okay, so I didn't
70s.
see that one. I saw the one in the theater that we had talked about.
And that would have been 2005-06, where the remake. That was the remake. The director is I think he's a Spanish director, Alexander Aja. That was he had done a movie before his Hills Have Eyes remake. It was called High Tension. It was a European movie. And, you know, I was like a film nerd back then, and like I watched it, and it's gory as heck, scary and everything. And then it was announced he was going to do that, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to go see that. And in that Hills Have Eyes, that remake, like, I freaking love it. Like, the choices the characters have to make, the awful things, the level of, it's not even so much gore, just like, I can't believe they filmed that on a set.
Yeah.
Like that got me. Like, I'm like, that's gross.
Somebody did that on you did a retake of that many times. You acted that out. Someone wrote that script and you did it on camera. Even if it was fake, you still had to do that.
I know I watched this, but I keep getting like what was the guy that plays music and directs horror films?
Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
House of a Thousand. That's what keeps coming in my brain when you guys are talking. I know I've watched this movie.
Similar, like, you know.
I told him that Terrifier shits on Rob Zombie movies as far as gore.
As far as gore,
not as far as mental
as far as
twist.
Gore, yeah, for sure.
Mental twist and weird, creepy, get scared, trapped, tortured shit.
Right.
Rob Zombie can own that market, but when it comes to gore,
I'd be interested. I have this like my own little pocket theory about the horror genre as a whole. Where for me, a horror movie is something supernatural, like Art the Clown, right? He's clearly supernatural.
No, he does, yeah,
right?
because he loses his head and he comes
Right.
back.
So
I'm not
Friday
ruining
the
it for
13th.
you.
Jason, supernatural.
Yeah.
Freddy, supernatural. Werewolves, Dracula, Frankenstein, all supernatural. To me, that's a horror movie.
Yeah.
But then you get a movie like The Hills Have Eyes, and I know it's billed as a horror movie, but in my brain, it's a terror movie because it's humans terrorizing other humans.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
It's like
sense.
it's like a subgenre. You get metal, you get like speed metal, whatever it is, right? Or black metal,
Yeah.
or punk rock, whatever.
Yep.
And so to me, it's like, and to me, I like even to me like the original terror movie is probably like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just families of horrific people
Yeah.
doing this to other humans. Not,
Yeah.
I mean,
That is scarier.
Arguably Leatherface, he's a big dude, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to have this huge human guy have the whatever do this to someone, right? But it's out of the realm of possibility for whatever werewolves or things like that. Whatever.
I'm with
they
you
would
on
do.
that. When Jeepers Creepers came out, it was scary as hell until you
was.
saw that it was a gargoyle, and I
Yeah.
was like, boring. Okay, fine. But it was scary as hell because it was with dude at 1st Yeah, I'm with you on that. When
And
it's
that
human
there's
to
a
human, it's
shot
different.
I remember from that when I think they first see him. They're driving on the highway, and there's a flash, and he's just throwing whatever into his truck.
Yes, the body
Yes, the
bag
body,
thing. He
yes.
just hurls it like
Yeah.
it's empty.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, that's a body in that thing.
Because it's broad daylight. They're not hiding in the, it's
Yes.
just like, whoa. And I think if I can remember, there's a shot, I think it's in the first Phantasm, where the same thing, like that main bad guy, I can't remember his name from the first Phantasm. He's like, picks up a casket and just like chucks it.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah,
in
that's
broad
exactly what
daylight.
he does, yeah.
Same kind of quote, homage to that. Like,
Yeah.
here it is out in the open. To me, that was scary. And then you're right. The rest of the movie, I'm like, okay, whatever. But that shot is
Yeah.
still in my brain.
Yeah, that OG Phantasm when I was a kid,
Yeah.
that was a kicker.
Yeah, it's Sinister got me for similar reasons.
Yeah.
Even though it's a blend of what you're saying, you know, you've got some supernatural beings affecting what the kids end up doing, but it's the kids are killing their family. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of a blend,
Right.
but I agree with you. The more scarier stuff is definitely when it's human to human stuff.
Because I think I recently watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre at a theater where I'm from, and it was like a revival, whatever. They had a nice print of it, and I brought my older kid, some of my other nephews who are adults, and we watched it. And I'd seen it before, right? I haven't seen it on the big screen, but you still get to that. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but there's a scene at the end where they're at the dinner table, and the one surviving chick, I think her name is Sally. The family's all around her. They're having dinner, their version of dinner with her, and in the moment, it's like, God, this is awful. If this is a true story, which it's a build as, this is awful. But then you pull back, imagine how trying to direct that scene, how do you? Because you have to get your actors into that mode. You have to get her in that mode of, I'm scared to death. You have to touch on that, or else it's not going to be believable. And as a director, I'm like, how do you get that? How do you have to get in that headspace? It can't just be be a little scary. You have to be you have to instill this terror into her. It's your guys' responsibility to do that on camera. And I get uncomfortable watching that scene, not because I think it's real, because I'm like, I can't imagine what that set was like, because
That's also acting.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
they
yeah.
mentally know that they're acting, but maybe that makes it easier to actually be scared because you're doing it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna traumatize you, I would imagine.
I can't. I mean,
It
actors say
definitely
that
screws
kind
with
of
your
thing.
emotions to some degree, I'm sure.
Right. Maybe that's why actors are, different or weird or whatever
Yeah.
it is. They just have a different way
Charlie
of
Sheen.
experiencing the world.
Charlie Sheen.
You watched his whole thing on Joe?
No, I haven't finished Joe
Did you watch
Rogan's
it?
podcast.
I watched a clip where he talked about being on the set of Apocalypse Now. Did you see
Okay.
that clip of it?
No, I haven't seen anything yet. I've been waiting for a time where I can sit down and just watch it all.
This is like a small portion of that, however long podcast it is, but it got me thinking about Gore because his dad is the main character in Apocalypse Now.
Yep.
He's 10 or 11 on the set in the Philippines. There's no OSHA. Lawrence Fishburne is 14 years old. One of the main, a main character in that movie.
Johnny Depp's 18, 19, whatever he is.
Oh, I think that's Platoon though.
Oh, we're talking about. You
I'm
said
talking
Apocalypse now.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. And it's interesting though that maybe the two most prestigious Vietnam movies are Apocalypse Now, Martin Sheen, and Platoon with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
But he talks about when he's on the set of Apocalypse Now, he's just walking around the set getting to know all the trade guys, who's doing this. And he said, tells Joey, I walked into this room and it's a special effects department. And there's the guy crafting all the body parts, the skulls, the this. And he's like, and I saw how it was made. And he's like, Gore has 0% effect on me. I just watched a movie with Gore. I'm like, okay. I know
he
how.
saw it too young. He's desensitized too
I can
young.
see right through that.
Yeah.
What purpose? So
I can see that. I grew up. My family
interesting.
was in the costume business.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of special effects. I used to design the window scenes, and you're a young kid.
What do you mean window scene? Sorry.
So we had storefronts in downtown Torrance.
Okay.
And so we would dress mannequins up in different. They would display costumes for the most part, but it was how did we do it? Well, we did it through shock and gore and awe. And I had created the scene. I think I was probably like 18. It was going to be my turn to be able to create the scene. And, I had waited like 5 years to be able to be the guy that could create the scene because everybody else older than me, my family did it. And I finally did it. And I just went to town, man. I sawed off the mannequin's head and I put stuff coming out of it. And I really, with latex and tissue combined and draped it all with knife. And I had like a not turn of the century, but 1800s.
Medieval?
No, and that's a few centuries earlier. Anyway, Charles Dickens time period.
Victorian.
Big topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper type thing, and had half the body, ripped off from the bottom portion of it, and the city of Torrance, everybody came to say, "Can you please take that down?" That is women. It had women's rights groups come to the costume shop and get on us. Yeah, I was like, and then a few years later, we had a guy. Did you ever see that thing that was in a electrocution chair? And you'd flick the switch and
and you would start doing his thing. Yeah, you can buy it in fucking the spirit shop and shit now. You can buy those.
Yeah, well, we had the first one. And we had a satellite shop across the street because we used to have lines down around the corner, and it was just chaos. For 30 days at our business, it was chaos. We were busy till midnight, dressing people. And we had all the most authentic costumes from Hollywood because we did a lot of Universal Studios stuff and Disneyland stuff.
Yeah.
And
real garb, like real clothing for these costumes.
And so we had that set up in our satellite store, and it made the Daily Breeze front page and this or that and that and the other. This horror effect is. Then we had again rights groups come. I can't believe that children are walking into that. There should be warning signs, about children coming into that. But you're in the costume business game. You don't care.
Yeah,
You just
now sky's the limit. Everybody's desensitized to everything.
Yeah, that's true.
You're behind the curtain though. That's why, right? I mean, you see how it's made, and you're like, this should happen. Different perspective.
Good-ish. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything that you have on your mind that people have a misconception about lawyering, about what you do in your profession, that you want to address?
Yeah, and this isn't juvenile dependency, and it's something I've thought about, probably even in law school and especially practicing, is that it doesn't seem like it. I'm not trying to say I'm like that magician who reveals how all the magicians do their tricks, right? Because this stuff is common knowledge. Right? There's no secret manual. But I think that there's this misconception that being a lawyer, maybe court-appointed counsel is a little different, but being a private lawyer, taking money from your client and doing their legal work for them, it's a service industry, right? Meaning that, you may know how to. It's kind of like if you hired someone to build a house. And if you don't know how to do it yourself, you hire a contractor to do it. You may say, I want my house to look like this. I want this metal roof. I want that. Here's the money to do it. Now, you may not micromanage what subs they're going to hire, this, that, whatever, but you get the say in what the final product should look like, for better or for worse, right? And so same thing with like a contractor. We're a service industry. When I was doing family law, when I was getting when my paycheck came from client retainers, whether my clients, it would change their perspective of me. If you hire a lawyer, not necessarily your servant, but it is a service industry. It's like, hey, I want you to try to help me achieve this result. Now, that doesn't mean a lawyer has to drop their ethics or everything to make it happen. They try to give you, well, realistically, here's what we can do. Do you want me to pay me to try to do that, right? But I think there's a sense out there, I don't know where I draw it from, that, this is my lawyer. He tells me what to do. He makes my decisions. I'm paying him to do this, and I'll do whatever he says. To me, I think it's a little bit of a disservice to you as a client.
A little naive.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, no, this person you're paying them to help you get the result that you want within reason. You should not be having what you want supplanted simply because, well, I'm the lawyer, I know better. And I don't know if that's a generational thing from an older school of lawyers who, went through law school at a time when, they didn't have things like that exam I was talking about. But, and I don't experience it so much anymore being court appointed counsel because I don't take client funds. Like I get paid different ways. But in that service industry, if you have a lawyer you're unsatisfied with, let's go like the family law thing, and they're trying to help you with the divorce, but you think, I'm looking at my bill every month and they haven't actually, like I see they're doing work, but that my case actually hasn't gone anywhere. You have every right to be like, stop working on my case. I want my money back that you haven't billed me for, because you did work. Can't argue that.
Right.
But I want my money back. And that's one thing that it's uncomfortable to do, because some folks are like, well, this is my lawyer, I'll stay with it. But it's like that guy building your house. If you realize, dude, I'm paying you to put this metal roof on, what are you doing ordering shingles? Or how come the order hasn't gone through? And you realize your contractor, for whatever reason, isn't being honest with you, or you just don't like the work they're doing. Hey, stop. I'll pay you for the work you've done. Give me back whatever else I may have paid already. I'm going to go with someone else to finish the job. And there's someone out there tearing their hair out. Don't tell clients to pull up stakes and go with someone else, but it's a service industry. It's your money at the end of the day that you are giving this entity, this lawyer, this whatever. It's your money in that retainer account. And at any time you can be like, stop doing work on my case. I'm going to, go to this other firm, whatever it is. I'm okay with saying that out loud because, from my perspective, even before I became a lawyer, my folks had some, issues with, I don't say issues, but, they had their own experiences with attorneys that they'd hired. And I don't know all the facts of that case. I was young, and I was just somewhere else as a teenager. But in retrospect, what my dad told me about it, and I was like, man, like now being a lawyer, I'm like, Dad, you were paying him to get that result and this, that, whatever. Like I said, I don't know all the facts, but my brain leaps to my folks were probably like, well, these are our people. Why would they tell us this? They're a lawyer, whatever. We're paying them the money. Money makes people do funny things, lawyers included.
Yeah.
There's tons of stories, plenty of lawyers losing their licenses, not for DUIs, not for, maybe committing manslaughter, but for taking client money when they shouldn't be. Like that is like one of the biggest sins as a lawyer you can do. If you are entrusted with client funds, you have to account for it. If your client wants any part of unbilled money back, from my perspective, you're like, fine, this is your money. I didn't want to mess with the beast that could happen if I try to get funny with your money.
Yeah, it's retainer for a
no,
reason.
that's and I never even just you mentioning that, never once in my brain had that ever come up that you could do that.
No.
And it makes sense that you could, especially if it's on retainer. But I think most people are under the impression, like I was, it's under the retainer, it's there, and they're going to eat it all up, and I don't have any way to pull it back, no matter what happens.
One experience with retainer work, and when the trial was over, the subject of whatever's available in the retainer, you'll get it back. And we're like, okay, cool, but I don't think we got anything back, if not a couple $100 out of
they sent you a bill that had it all laid up.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. It's like you got to trust the billing. What are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
So that's why it's worth, if you're, especially in the, for lawyer insurance, right? Like my line of work, my insurance premium is very low because it's not money oriented. But for family law practitioners and for estate planning practitioners, their insurance premiums are higher because you're dealing with people's multi-million-dollar estates. You're dealing possibly with this rich couple who's trying to figure out who's going to get which one of their beach houses. A lot of money involved. So because of that, your liability insurance is a higher premium because, but it happens. It's probably happened this week. There's probably some lawyer in California who was like, I'm going to skim a little more than I should have, or I'm going to try to justify it by billing this and whatever, it's a phrase that I say, I'm a lawyer. I deal with lawyers all the time. I hate dealing with lawyers. I'm a lawyer and I hate dealing with lawyers. I get it.
Argumentative. I don't understand it.
Objection. Speculative. But I think there's that, you're trying to pull that veneer down. I'm not saying that they're, that there aren't some lawyers who, the vast majority of lawyers that I've worked with, that I've come across, they are good lawyers, smart folks that I look up to, that they try to do the profession the right way. You always hear stories. There's always some outliers that try to be fast and loose with it. And I think man, I will never lose my license for how scared I am of losing my license, because I don't even remotely engage in conduct like Joe Schmo is over there. Right. That story that I know is factual. And I think okay, but in that instance, for the folks who are hiring that lawyer, I'm like, I would love to tell you, don't do that. Like, keep your money, go somewhere else, get your money out of there, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's a service industry. At the end of the day, maybe a DA, public defender, whatever, still service, but kind of different because there's no money involved necessarily. Yeah. But anything where you're paying your lawyer to write this estate plan for me, whatever it is, it's service industry. Like you're.
So if you're unhappy, leave them. Don't be afraid.
Right. It's like your meal at the restaurant. You know, you go to a pricey place and you get your steak, and it's not what you ordered. It's not cooked how you ordered it. You bring it up like, hey, I didn't order this. Like, you expect me to pay you for something I didn't order? Like, I get you guys expended resources to give me something I didn't order, but I didn't order this.
Right.
Like, you are here to serve me. This is my dollar that's going to keep this restaurant afloat.
Yeah, I think even the undertone of that about the attorney is that trust your gut, and so like you kept saying, like, well, these are my people. Like, I have to trust them. You have to trust the people that are professionals at something you don't know anything about.
Right.
You have to trust these people. You've chosen them. You're going to pay them because you believe that they're going to give you what you need. But just because you don't know everything, the ins and outs of their job, doesn't mean that you should blind trust. And if you have a gut feeling and it's not working, you shouldn't be afraid to pull out of that attorney.
And the sub answer also was something I didn't consider. Was when I'm going through law school, I'm thinking, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a lawyer. And then you get there and you get your license and you start practicing law. You're running a business.
Yes.
Right? Even if you have 10 people working for you or it's just you by yourself, it's still a business. And they don't really, now law school is probably a little better about trying to prepare you for practice. But from my recollection, I didn't spend a lot of time like, I got to pay, my estimated taxes. I'm a 1099. I do this. I have to pay for that. I have to pay for my office supplies, whatever it is. And you have your book of business. Like, you're trying to keep your business afloat, meanwhile practicing law at the same time, which is independency. Because I'm court appointed counsel, like, I don't have much overhead, right? I'm just a one man show. I'm not working for anyone. I'm my own boss, and I don't have a lot of overhead. I don't have office space. I'm either at home in my home office or I'm at court. That's it. But in family law, I was at the firm or I was at court or I'm talking to clients on the phone, and I know my boss is paying the rent on this whole place. He's got to pay me. He's got to pay the front office staff. And I thought, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to practice law, which is what court appointed counsel independency is. You get to practice law. You're not practicing running a business, trying to keep it afloat at the same time.
It clouds your judgment, I feel like. It can.
Yeah, and I think it adds stress to an already very stressful profession.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate it. Like, it is truly like being a lawyer. Like, you're very little worried about the overhead. Oh, can I make rent in my office space this week? It's like, no, this is the law. This is my client. Like, I'm getting my paycheck, whatever. Mm-hmm. Here it is. This is what I'm worried about. And to me, I really, having done like private sector work, I guess, in a firm and doing this kind of court appointed work, like the ability to practice law is different because I'm not worried about, did I make my billable hours this month? Is my boss going to be ticked because I didn't bill this client enough? I didn't do this. I didn't pull enough revenue in this month. I didn't get enough retainers this month. Meanwhile, Miss Smith is yelling at me because I haven't filed this thing in her case yet. And the other attorney's yelling at me because I'm late on this response, whatever. And it just compounds it. So there's already enough stress in a lawyer's work. And I think court appointed counsel work, not to say it's not stressful,
right,
but manageable, I would say, to where maybe private work isn't. So service industry, and understand that if you're hiring that lawyer and you're paying them money, they're running their business at the same time that they're trying to help you out. And I think, like I said, most of the attorneys I know, good intentions, good folks, smart folks who I ask questions. I'm like, what do I do in this scenario? They help me out. And God bless them. They also have a firm that they're running at the same time they're trying to do this, and they're doing it. I just know myself. I to thy own self be true. Like I know what I need to do. Right?
That's right.
So I would the last two takeaways.
Yeah, I thank you. Yeah. Hopefully somebody out there gets a piece of this and gets to apply it in their life and uses it as well.
No,
or share something with someone else. Say, no, we didn't talk about a bunch of wonderful items, but it's like, I think we all learned a lot about the ins and outs of some juvenile dependence.
Yeah.
Dependency. What did I say?
Dependence.
Oh, those are my kids. My kids are juvenile dependents. They're on my tax form.
No, I know, dude. I don't want them to turn 18. I just want to keep claiming them.
I don't know about that.
I know, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Double-edged sword.
But Mike, thank you for coming down. And
yes,
I
thank
hope
you
that
very much.
In the future, there's some other things that come up, and when you want to come and be a guest, we'll talk about some other stuff.
I'd love to, man.
You know,
I appreciate your guys' time.
Any subject you wanna throw our way, we're happy to have you back.
If you just want to come and sit and you don't even know what we're going to talk about, just come sit and talk and be man number 3, and we can laugh and talk about other stuff. And you are very into the social media and watching and you catch a lot of current events and things like that. But
I peruse,
and we stay away from a little bit of political stuff.
Oh no, I was just going to ask you, how's your political accoutrement?
Oh boy!
Till next time. Thank you for being guests on BS Lounge podcast, and
my pleasure.
We hope that you enjoyed your stay.
I'd love to come back. Thank you guys for taking the time out. I know what it is to be busy, so I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Love you. Be good.
I'ma talk shit in a world gone stupid.
A bullshit? A bullshit.